Check one, check two. How's everybody going today? Of course, I thought football was on this weekend and it was just on Friday and Saturday. So, how's everybody doing today? Once again, I'm trying to get motivated. Let me share my slides. I'm lacking today. So, it's going to do something a little different. Let's see. Come on, slides. You know how we do it. If you got any cybersecurity questions, just put them in the chat. I guess I should have reached out to engineering cannabis since talking about AI machine learning. So just got a couple questions. So many people were just shout out to JT. He's always on the PPP fraud issue. So that just kind of made me think about doing a video on it. So let's see. I didn't do any videos this week, so I've been just kind of mellowing out, a little burnt out. So once again, just drop your questions in the chat. We'll get started shortly. So just checking out soon. Make sure everything is good. So we know the coronavirus / PPP scams alert. Banking, they always had fraud, so they kind of melding those together, right? The bank fraud and the PP fraud using artificial intelligence and machine learning. So we'll do that. And everybody know I'm on my AWS kick. Of course, they have a whole fraud module, so we'll touch on that a little bit. Once again, if any cybersecurity questions, just drop them in the chat box and we can hit them. Like I said, I'm ready to get started and people just fall in as they fall in. So happy Sunday. So let's see. Look at my phone while it's coming in. And this year, I feel like it's just flying by. I got to get it together. I feel like it's just flying by and trying to catch up and never ending things. And shout out to Black Heights and I think even B2B talking about there's a layoffs in the tech sector, but you know, layoffs and hiring, right? So it's all the same. So let me see. So I think we get a roll. There it is. It says online. I got this new mic, so. There it is. Almost there. So we're about to get started once again. Shout out to JT Pocket Watching. I saw one of his videos and it actually mentioned artificial intelligence. That kind of got me thinking on that. And fraud actually is a part of cybersecurity. Most people know I'm a security analyst. So I work at large companies. So we're always talking about fraud and fraud prevention. And cool thing is Amazon's been doing fraud for a decade. So they thought, well, let's create a service and sell it to people because we've been dealing with that for a decade. How was the B2B meetup, Professor? I didn't go, to be honest. I was on there for a hot second. I don't know. I didn't go. I didn't go, JM. I should have went. I don't know if it was in person or online. So I peeked in for a little bit, then I dropped out, JM. Did you go? I thought it was looked like it was live because I'm not in Atlanta. I'm in the Midwest. So it looked like they were meeting somewhere in Atlanta, even though I think I'm going to make me a trip to Atlanta shortly. So I just kind of want to travel around a little bit. So that's on there. But no, I didn't go, JM. I should have went. Shout out to B2B. He's doing big things over there. So once again, just drop your questions in the chat. We'll get to them. We're gonna hit what's up, Helmet? Glad you could join us. Just talk about AI machine learning. Everybody's getting caught with P2P for the PPP fraud. And shout out to Pocket Watching with JT. And I got this short clip and they talk about that. I only watch for me too, JM. I only watch for a little bit online. So we'll get to it. So once again, drop your chats for fraud detection using machine learning and deep fraud detect. fraud detection using machine learning and deep learning algorithms. Correct. We'll talk a little bit about the engineering economist. I'm glad you shut up. Of course, like you talked about, AWS got the service, so you using their algorithms and their machine learning, and they give you the base to add on to it, and we'll pick a little bit up there. And I'll drop the the link in a little bit, engineering, if you want to come up when we get to that part. So, of course, Amazon, and we talked about that. They give you the services. You don't get to the back end; you just get to use their services, but if you don't have the skills of engineering cannabis, I think that would be a good start, for your company. And we'll talk about a couple of data flows that AWS recommends for a fraud alert, especially when you sign up. And so, once again, I just thought I would do it from a PPP perspective, and we'll look at that short clip. And once again, shout out to JT. I got a slide with him on it. He put in a good work, so that made me think about, because everybody's getting caught. So, and I think too with the government hiring, what did they hire? 80,000 IRS agents. I think they're going to need something to do. And I think they're going to start off with PPP fraud with the machine learning and the AI coming up with the list for them, the people to look at, right? And of course, once again, a lot of people were making dumb mistakes when they were filling out their paperwork, right? So once again, PPP fraud, I think it's going to be $500 million that's being stolen. Shout out to the the thievery game. If you're gonna go big, go big. Once again, fraud is part of cybersecurity. Once you get in business, right, you talking about locking them out, passwords and all that, but fraud, right? People stealing your inventory or stealing people passwords and ordering stuff from Amazon on your bill, right? So all that kind of plays into with it. Let's read a little bit. Again, we'll touch on that. By the way, I see Cyber Mentor. I have 3 courses at $1. Ethical hacking, Linux, back smile. Yeah, get on that, man. That's a steal of a deal. So many people are offering courses now, though. Helmets. So there's a lot of deals out there, like you said, man. There's a lot of deals. I drop. Yeah, do that. You a moderator. Be my guest. Helmet. I like when you do that, man. Like I said, there's so many ways to get it. I love to stop a lot of things. That is true, and I'll drop the link in a little bit when I get to that part. Yeah, because and that's the beautiful thing too, is you've been in the game a long time, engineering cannabis. They kind of give you a framework to get started, and once again, we'll walk through that. I just touched on it a little bit, and 2 is AWS has multiple services you can do to sign up for that too. So, right. So once again, fraud. They came into the richest by participating what experts said is a theft of $80 billion, or about 10% of 800 billion, handed out to the COVID relief fund known as the Paycheck Protection Program. That's on the PPP. That's on top of the 90 billion to 400 billion believed to have been stolen from the 900 billion COVID unemployment relief, right? So there's like 3 programs out there. At least half was taken by international fraudsters, as reported by NBC. And we're going to look at I think it was a 2 or 3 minute clip where they drilled down into it. Another 80 billion was potentially pilfered from a separate COVID disaster fund. So once again, they got away about 500 million. So if I go to jail, I'm going with a big number like 500 million. Man. If you're going to go big, right? Shout out to Helmet dropping them links in there. I know that it's weird. I struggle with that too. For me, that PPP. So, a password authentication, something you would recommend for them? Oh, most definitely. Even for a small company, not mid-sized company. Yeah, I would start off with mid, but definitely, I think that's the future, man. Especially if you're with any of the big cloud vendors, aka Azure is really pushing that. AWS and Google, they're out pushing the passwordless, because passwords are just so easy to hack, and people are sloppy with them. We're getting better with passphrases, but no, I think passwordless is the way to go. Most people with the are not fully cloud, so that's the struggle, because doing that kind of a hybrid, I think, is still a chore, because most people are still on Active Directory, JM. So I think, but yeah, I would start, especially whatever piece you got in the cloud, I would definitely do that. So let me see, I'll be actually pinning stuff. And the way industry's heading out. Yep, 100%. At the bottom, mind blowing sum of taxpayer money that could rival, let me put myself at the bottom, round up to a $600 billion that's going to get stolen with the PPP fund. But to be honest, I didn't think the government would go after people as hard. I thought they would set a limit about if it was under $1 million, they would just leave you alone, because the point of the PPP loan really was to stabilize the economy. So even though it's stolen, right? Those are people that are actually spending the money, right? They're getting into the economy. They're usually low end, so they got housing, food, kids. So I thought the government was going to lay off on that, but I was sadly mistaken. They're going hard, and I think that's one of the 80,000 IRS agents. I think they're going to be digging into the PPP pretty hard. So once again, I want to shout out to my man JT. This is the one I listened to, and we already played a cool clip. And he has shorts, and he talks about PPP, people stealing PPP loan. So go check out my man JT. Let me find that quick. I should have had it queued up. I'm struggling. I'm on a struggle bus. So let's see. Let me know if you can hear it.
Last 2 years, the federal government was $5 billion of pandemic spending, and money is still going out the door. It was earmarked for unemployed Americans, small business, struggling healthcare providers. But now experts estimate hundreds of billions have also been lost to fraud. This $3.5 million Florida mansion seized by the IRS was bought with taxpayer.
Now, how you gonna buy a mansion with stolen funds and not think people are gonna catch it? That's the crazy thing with the PPP. I mean, people buying luxury cars and mansions. So I just thought that was, like, I don't know, incredibly stupid, but maybe I'm not the bright one.
Dollars that were supposed to rescue American jobs and small businesses. The buyer got $7 million from the federal government, allegedly claiming he had 400 employees. According to prosecutors, he had none.
Now, how you going from 700 plus? Shout out to Outcast 41. I'm glad you can join. So you fell. You didn't have any employees probably the first couple years. Now you got that many, right? So they're gonna pull those W-4s, and I think it's 579s. You got to apply on your employees, and that's when we're gonna talk. Is we got big data, artificial intelligence, machine learning. It can run through all those records in seconds now, right? And track you down. So I don't know what we thinking, people. I don't know what we thinking.
House was auctioned off earlier this month. And beyond putting people in jail, are you getting some of the money back?
Yeah, we're using all of our tools to get the money back to the Treasury.
Michael Horowitz is the top cop overseeing the effort to make sure the trillions of taxpayer dollars went to the right place.
Our job is to let the public know how its money is being spent.
$400 billion went out.
Yeah, he going to jail, Outcast 41. But look at that, $400 billion. And I ain't gonna even lie, man. I know some guys that was trying to do too much. They were trying to get me to do it. I'm like, nah, PBO ain't doing that. PBO ain't going to jail. I'm old and fat, man. I ain't going to jail, man. That ain't what I do. But I know a lot of people was trying to, get into that scam game, man, because they didn't think they were gonna get caught.
In just the first 2 weeks,
the Small Business Administration, in sending that money out, largely relied on an honor system.
Horowitz's team of data scientists are plowing through 150 million records looking for red flags. Just one red flag, this building in San Francisco that they found listed on more than 1,300 different loan applications.
And shout out to Engineering Cannabis. You don't need machine learning on 1,300 applications. People put the same building, man. That's not even machine learning, right? That's just being... That's not even greed, Helmet. That's being stupid, man. How you gonna list the same building, right? These are the same people listing the same, and you gotta know that's gonna get flagged, right? We ain't even get to the complicated machine learning yet, so it's crazy.
Tips on suspicious loans are sent to a team of federal agents around the country who follow up on foot. The fraudsters are bold, buying luxury cars, flights on private jets, mansions, but
now, how you buying flights on private jets, man? Come on, man. And you don't think you're going to get caught, man? You should have got some money. If you got 100,000, went underground, brought you a few properties. Nah, man, you on private jets, man. We just doing way too much. Shout out to Trey Wilson in the house. Yeah, we doing too much, man. I wonder as quickly the AI can go through the data. Oh, that stuff. I'm sure engineering cannabis keep on drops, man. I do a little big data. We were going through 1 billion rows 10 years ago in like an hour. So I mean, that technology wasn't good back then. Outcast 41. So I'm sure they're going through that super quick. And a lot of times too, if you're in the cloud, you can spin up 1,000 servers and just attack it from that perspective, Outcast. And we're going to talk once again about AWS has a little fraud module and a couple things you can do. So I kind of loop that in so we can talk about what that will look like in the cloud from that perspective.
Now, 2 years later, questions are being asked. Why did some banks and lenders give loans to businesses that seemed fake?
What didn't happen was even minimal checks to make sure that the money was getting to the right people at the right time.
Lenders like MBE Capital, led by Rafael Martinez, whose company collected $70 million in fees for loaning $1 billion federal dollars to small businesses. Now experts say those loans are questionable. Earlier this month, Martinez was charged with fraud, prosecutors saying he faked his way into building his company and used his proceeds to buy property, like this house in New Jersey. His lawyer denies the allegations, saying Martinez did exactly what he was supposed to do. Horowitz says for those who think they got away with it, think again. They have 10 years to go after the fraud.
Now, that's the crazy part. You got 10 years to get your data scientists, your ML, and your AI things up to point. And, people going to start snitching in a minute, right? So they got 10 years. So I think people going to at least be getting arrested for at least 5. Once again, my man was lending out money, wasn't doing a proper corrections. And we're going to get into that as the first line is the bank can lend out. Most of those companies had bank accounts with the banks they got from the PPP. So if they went from no money in the last 5 years to saying they had 400 employees, the banks was supposed to like engineering cannabis. That's an outlier. That should have been a red flag for people to look at. And I actually got a slide and it shows some of the artificial checks and artificial intelligence machine learning, what they should be looking for it to be fraud. So we're going to actually go through that slide and check that out too.
Yeah, a lot of money has been collected here, but they say they're just getting started. There will certainly be more arrests and convictions.
Oh, I'm glad we're bringing back the franchise, the fleecing of America.
Yeah,
There's a lot of fleecing going on.
We've got a big stack of stories we're working on.
Thank you, Les. And of course, we will see you tonight and all week with more on the fleecing of America.
So we checked that out, the fleecing of America. And I think a lot of people got a little too greedy with that, man. As always, people get greedy. They don't think they're going to. Shut up, JT watching. He's got shorts. He's got at least 50 shorts of people getting arrested. So that's just crazy. So I'm sure we'll play it again at the end because it's still interesting me. Were those people not thinking the government's not going to investigate it? I guess they thought it was free money, JM. I think people get greedy. Like I said, I got some homies, so they were talking about. I told them, man, that's a bad idea, man, but they did it, so we gonna see, man. So, but the one, they were they used the same building for. I guess they were in there for 1,300 applications. You don't think that's gonna be a red flag? At least you use different buildings and different social security numbers and different employees, right? So that was the sad thing about it. If you're gonna do it, don't be sloppy with it, right? So let's go keep going. So President Biden, this was from his, and they mentioned in there too. President Biden announced steps to combat criminal fraud. He actually put out an executive order, and this was part of the executive order. So I might actually bring that up a little bit too in there. So the DOJ will appoint a chief prosecutor to focus on the most egregious forms of pandemic fraud, including identity theft by criminal syndicates. Yes, syndicates were actually taking over businesses and filing that from a mafia perspective, right? Heightened resources and enhanced penalties for egregious pandemic frauds, an area like PPP loans. We saw some of that. I guess when you get the luxury cars and the mansions, right? I think that would be egregious. the executive order preventing identity theft and public benefits programs. They had an intra-agency COVID-19 fraud task force, an initiative on identifying theft from preventions and public benefits. And then part of that was what he was talking about. The bank was supposed to do some upfront fraud checking because they do it for their customers already, right? When you open up a business or bank, the bank does fraud perspective. We always know the drug, you can't put $10,000 or more in there, right? So they have a ton of those checks in there. So the government's why didn't you do that for the PPP program, right? So some of those people showing up. Yeah, I got a few things on social media I thought was egregious. So I got a few slides on that, Trey. So we got a few egregious. Mercedes-Benz Stadium is testing out new technology that could change the way fans enter the stadium. Oh, the real thing about that helmet, if you Google, I did one that on the Super Bowl. When you walk in there, they scan your face to figure out if you're a terrorist, if you have warrants, or if you have anything. So they're already doing facial recognition for major events. So and two is when they kick people out the stadium, they want to make sure they're not doing that. So I think most of your major sporting things, I think they already got facial recognition. Like you said, I think they're going to use it more for entering a stadium. But if you've been kicked out or you got a warrant for you, they're always scanning when you come in. So let's see that. What do you think about this one? What do you think? What do you think about this one, Professor? Which one? So folks are crazy, yeah. So here's one right there I just put on the screen. Paycheck Protection Program to buy 3 cars that cost 6 figures a piece, including this Ferrari 458 Italian. This was an attorney office in Los Angeles, right? So, of course, they putting them on social media. And that's one thing we're going to talk about too is when they run your name and if it comes up, it's called Amazon's got recognition where they can look for certain model of cars on your Instagram and your Facebook, right? So it's just not facial recognition. They can identify cars, money, phones. It's called recognition. We might look at that. Amazon has a service. Part of it's the face, like you said, but it actually looks for, it knows model cars, like engineering cannabis. You can train and look for certain things. So if you got that stuff on your Instagram and Facebook, you will be getting a visit, right? You on the list and you got that stuff on your Instagram and Facebook, you're going to get a visit. So here's another one. Prosecution said Danielle Miller used stolen identities to get more than $1,000 in economic injury disaster through the Small Business Administration, alleged that she spent taxpayer money at luxury hotels through California. Miller's lawyer declined. So she got the Rolls Royce and coming out the luxury 5-star hotel, right? With the PPP, or she got the economic disasters, right? So the feds are just trying to get a handle on fraud and all those programs, right? So it's been traditionally like that. But people be stealing. There's a lot of legal problems with facial recognition, a lot of lawsuits. Yeah, because I know it misidentified a black dude in Detroit, and I know he sued him in Detroit. I think I did a video on that. So what up, NC worker? So yeah, you right on about that. But I think it's getting better because, long story short, they start testing it on black people. The first version was airing 30% because they didn't test it on any black people. So they develop at these high-end Harvard, MIT. The rumor was they didn't test on any people of color. So it's like we were coming up with false positives. Let's see. Let's keep rolling. So the government's using big data, which we heard in the that segment from the Fleecing of America. The government's using big data, agency coordination, and reinvigorating the focus on prosecuting widespread pandemic fraud. Right, we about to get the data scientists. We saw the lady, right? I think she said she had 150 million records that she was going through, or some, One major development is the Pandemic Response Accountability Committee, creation of a Pandemic Analytics Center of Excellence, PACE. I guess I should have looked that up. So they got the PACE Center of Excellence to deliver analytic, audit, and investigation support to oversight community. It's laid out the PRAC strategic plan, holding wrongdoers accountable for using data analytics remains the primary goal, right? Because they know it's millions and billions of dollars and just hundreds of millions of people. So that's a big data problem, right? So even the government knows, you got to get ready for that and start attacking that from a big data perspective, right? Everybody's in the big data. Everybody knows that's the key. So the government's behind, but they're not super behind. A lot of times too is they're going to outsource a lot of that out, right, to the big companies and the big because the big consulting company is going to come in and make a ton of money on that, right? So I googled and brought that page up, so we'll talk about that at the end. I should have did that, and we just kind of peruse through the pandemic response accountability committee. Like you said, they're trying to get the bad guys, so everybody's trying to be accountable. What is happening with the data is being stored in the stadium. You can train algorithms for lots of things. It's called object detection. These days, right, getting better and better, right, getting better and better. They're always a scapegoat. Usually folks say, we can't identify folks coming across the wall. They can get them. They can get them, man. So for the bill, that's almost all of what AWS made for Amazon. Facts, man. So that's big money, though, man. So let's read about that. DOJ, we saw Horowitz. He was actually in that video. The practice acting chair noted new efforts to hire data scientists. I put that in red. Hire data scientists use artificial intelligence to identify fraud trends, patterns, and anomalies across 17 data sets and 150 million records from public, non-public, commercial data source. Now, this is the one I highlighted, right? The data scientist also analyzes social media to make a connection to anticipated linkage online that can be lead to uncover fraud rings. So I made that a little bigger. See right there? They analyze in your social media, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, all of that, right? So they're out there looking at all of that, right? So if you come up with the Bugatti on your Instagram page right there, that might be a telltale sign. So the data scientist is also analyzing social media to make connections to anticipate linkage online that can lead to uncovering fraud ring. PACE efforts are teaching computers to recognize fraud through machine learning. Horace emphasized that the PRAC long-term strategy is sustainment, and the head of the Government Accountability Office has suggested making PACE permanent. Right? They're going to make that permanent because big data is the future. It's easier. You don't need to hire as many people, right? And it's going to get you the list, right? And like Engineering Cannabis says, you're going to train it and make it better. So let's look at some of the points of data. Shout out to engineering. We were talking about not in business is a red flag because most PP borrowers are already bank customers. Bank has a certain level of transaction data that can be used to build a behavioral profile. Analytics such as time series analysis can be explored to monitor changes in borrower behavior over time. Cases in which the borrower was not in business prior to the PPP designated date, which is February 15, 2020, or do not have transactions prior to that is a clear red flag. Like we talked about, you went for no money to, you got the PPP million or 7 million and one got stole, right? So even if it's 20,000, if you live in paycheck to paycheck and all of a sudden you get a 20,000 PPP loan, right? It could be legitimate, but I promise you, your name is going to end up on a list, right? They're going to start tracking you down, right? So all those people that think they got away, nah, they going to get them, man. They going to get them. So I'm dropping a link if anybody want to come up. Let's see what Helmet says right there. They're using 10i Bing. That's what you did. They're using all that, man. They using stuff too. Is people forget Equifax that got hacked. They had half the United States information from your credit reports. There's data brokers out there that's putting all this stuff together. The feds are just rolling up on them with a search warrant and says, we want all that, right? So now it says, okay, PPO run this much money. This is his account. This is his business. This is his real estate. So if any of that looks kind of funny or funky, you gonna get it, right? So What's up, Engineer Cannabis?
What's up?
I need to get your email. I was gonna hoping you was popping up, but
What's up, man? This is one of the best, man. The funny thing is, before I started researching the PPP loan, and one of the stuff, the first thing you should know is the only way they can actually trace you and PPP fraud is if you actually have permission to go into your information. And once you sign that PPP loan, you also signed the government to have access to go into your bank accounts and go into basically be able to trace you. And at that point, you messed up.
you toast.
You gave access to the government to trace your ass with money. And they're using one of the most powerful the time series algorithm. One of the ones I use is called ARIMA. We usually use that for stock market analysis, to predict how stock markets will go in a few years or so. ARIMA, that is a powerful time series algorithm. And they're using that now not for stock market prediction, but to see your trends and basically your analysis on your bank spend. That's messed up. And the funny thing is, what they did was they gave you the loan, and they said, okay, we're gonna have access to where that money goes. Each time that money is going, we're gonna have access to it. So they started with a source, and the source is your bank account. And now, for instance, if money leaves their bank account and goes into a place that, again, with the time series, it goes into $500,000 goes to about another bank account, and that bank account, there's nothing that leaves that bank account. That means you spent that money. That money wasn't used for an employee, because unless you pay an employee $500,000, one employee, that's an outlier. And that's like, okay, what did you do with $500,000 coming out from one bank into another bank? But if you say, okay, I put that 500,000 in that bank, then I'm going to share that money into different bank accounts, then we're going to be able to trace it. But if you just use that and it sits there for 30 days or something and someone else withdraws it, that's an outlier. I'm going to trace you. So the traceability factor for all this is huge. And the funny thing is, they're not going to trace you by the amount of, but okay, location, like fraud detection. Fraud detection from an account is not only based on your spending habits, but also your location. So features like, did you spend that money based on your trends for the last 6 months? If you've not spent anything above 2,000, and today you spend $5,000, and the location is in France, that's a suspect. That's a suspicious fraud that they're gonna flag. So that's how it is. It's looking at your spending habits, looking at location, looking where you spend it, looking not only your past, but basically over time how that money was spent. That will basically give a story on if you actually spend that money on what it was dedicated for.
Yeah, but you see that now a lot of times is you can go out and I try to use my credit card. My credit card is like, you in a different state, they lock your credit card. So they've been building up to that already.
So fraud detection. The beauty about fraud detection is they're not using just your spending pattern, but they're going to use location, spending, what you spent on. So if today, for instance, I've never in the past 2 years I've never spent anything on Gucci. Today I'm spending 10,000 on Gucci. That's suspicious. So they're looking at different patterns to know, hey, where is this? Why is that's fraud detection? But now you're doing with PPP loan. Oh, they're gonna, and not only that, they will classify. So basically, people around you who are spending too might get a red flag just because of you.
If you cash app some people some money, like you said, they go get looped in.
They're gonna get looped in like, oh, this dude's spending money too. Let me see if he got that PPP loan. Let me look, and they're gonna trace. Oh, he too got that PPP loan. Okay, that's how people get triggered in. They run a classification algorithm just to classify. Okay, people around you, how are their spending patterns around you? Did they spend money too? Did that money that went to that account, who owns that account? Again,
No,
once that money is leaving your account and going into another person's account, the government has access to that account because they are following that money. So traceability is a huge factor. And then they're going to basically, they will tell a story about that.
But then you get the next thing you know, you on RICO charges, man. Y'all criminal organization.
Man, at that point, I mean, it's
right, you're RICO charge.
they will layer stuff on you like, dude, I just got 20,000. Yeah, but I'm seeing all this. Where's this money going to? How did this money spent? The goal of the day is you got PPP loan. Let me find out the story of how that PPP loan was spent over time. Right. If that money if you got a PPP loan of 5 million and you spend 5 million in a period of 3 months, I want to know how you spend that period of 3 months, that PPP loan. I want to trace that whole money. And if I can flag it and see outliers, oh, this dude spent $500,000 in this bank account and spent $200,000 in this bank account, and spent $700,000 in this. Are you trying to buy a house and buy a Ferrari?
Yeah.
See that? See that's what is going to happen.
Yeah, and the crazy thing now is most people don't take cash. They want you to use a credit card or a debit card so they can electronically trace it even more. So it's like you.
It's going to be, again. It's going to tie a lot of people. So people who, but again, there's a lot of problems with this. And once you took that PPP loan, you already signed the government to tell you, hey, I have access to trace where that money is going. And once I find out that this money wasn't spent legitimately on what you said it was, I'm going to find you.
Oh, yeah, you said yourself. Let me read these couple. JM asked a good question. I'm going to talk a little bit about that, Jerry. Could someone be able to get one of those loans in your name if they stole your Social Security number? Yes and no. The bank has fraud detection up front, but theoretically you could use a fake identity. And the mob was actually taking over small businesses to try to get fake PPP loans because they said half of them was getting stolen over international. So a lot of mobs were trying to take over small companies and fill out their work, that paperwork.
But again, if you understand the banking system, you understand data. Once you understand those things and you say, okay, and you read that document, at that point you will say, look, they're going to trace this money. How am I going to evade being traced? Again, I'm not going to give anybody ideas because
too late. Go ahead.
No, I'm not good. But if I was trying to do, I was like, how am I told the government I'm going to spend PPP loan, and this is how I know they're going to basically track. If they're going to look at outliers. How am I going to evade outliers?
Facts.
There are ways you can do it, but I'm never going to say it. But there are ways you can do it.
The slide might get in there a little bit. I think I'm snitching on this next slide because it talks about the PPP related flags. Let me read this last question and we'll go on there because this is what they're using in the machine learning and the thing. So let me hit this question. Let's see. This thing can get other people get caught up in RICO. Yeah, definitely in RICO. And this one too, JM brought up is during the pandemic, people on YouTube saying that if you were an Uber driver or something similar, you could get those loans. Was that legitimate? Let me go first, engineer. I think it's legitimate, but it's going to be for a much smaller amount. Number two is unless you're leasing your car out as a business and paying other people to drive for you, it's not really for sole proprietorships, right? And even if it is, it's going to be a small amount. It's not going to be for $1 million. What's your take on that, engineer?
It's going to be a small amount, but again, you remember one of the rules in the PPP loan is you have to be in business for at least 2 or 3 years prior. So now you've given access to your bank account, also given access to your LLC, which is a public LLCs to know your business. If your business was found, is a public information that you can go look up and see when your LLC was formed. So if you formed an LLC 2 months prior before you got a PPP loan, even I know that. So That's the problem. I
Right, right.
I say, okay, let me see all this. And I go in, I take all the business. The first thing you're gonna do is I look at all the businesses and I go immediately. Go in the database and say, when was all these PP businesses formed? Immediately, if I can see all the red flags, that alone, I'll just start with that immediately.
Yeah.
Just that alone. When was those businesses found? Then from there, start going back. Just that alone is the first stage of trying to figure out where the fraud is. Because most people will basically start a business two months before they go to PPP loan, or 3 months. Again, that alone is a red flag just to start. Then I start digging into it.
Yeah. And I'm going to start on the red flags. That was red flag number 3. Not in business. That's number 3. I'll make it a little bigger too. So the first one is, and you talked about the inaccurate payroll. People are inflating their payrolls to qualify for a higher loan amount. And that was in the application stages. So in this document,
you have access to tax records too.
Right.
IRS has your tax records, so they can correlate your tax records to your business. Man, the amount of data there, even me, I'm gonna be like, oh, people gonna get caught up in this.
Yeah,
because even I can look at. I'm not even involved in this. I already tell you what kind of data they're really looking at. They're looking at your IRS records. They're looking at your LLC businesses.
Yeah.
They're looking at your bank accounts. They're looking at traceability. All this is just going to tell a story on how they're going to prosecute you.
Yeah. Hold on real quick. Let me hit these 3. Ineligible size. A business has more than 500 employees, but still applies. Not in business. That's what we talk about. Borrowers was not open or not in business before the time of the COVID impact, which was February 15, 2020. They looking up like you said, have either had employees for whom the small business pays salaries, payroll taxes, or paid independent contractors as reported on your form 1099 miscellaneous. So I do a lot of freelancing, right? PBO, I make money. I get a 1099 from the people, I work for. Lack of key documents or forgiveness evidence. Borrowers cannot provide key documents as they try to use alternatives, including tax documents, minimum required beneficiary ownership, PO information. Identity theft, that's what JM was talking about, or mismatched names. Fraudsters stealing identities of owners of small businesses that are not eligible. Often friends or relatives of business owners and face false applications. Funds dispersed to an account that has a name different than the ones on the application.
You know what's messed up? You know what's messed up with that? So if you file with someone with someone's wrong name or someone else's social security, I can look at it and say, okay, I can look at that money and say, okay, I need to run a classification algorithm. Who's related to that individual who opened a bank account recently that has a huge amount of money? And I can trace that to you and say, so you use someone else's social security number and you getting money. That's not, you're not only tackling fraud, you're tackling theft. Man, you're tackling a lot of heavy stuff on you. And that's what I'm saying. Data can tell you a lot of stuff. Just by giving that fraudulent name, I say, how did he get that social security? Did he just get it out of the blue?
And 2 is but 2 is like we talked about. Everybody's connected to Facebook, so everybody usually link their family. So you snitching on yourself. Go ahead.
And again, facial recognition. I can use facial recognition on Facebook. And object detection. And I know where the money went to. So if I know the money went to a car dealership, and the car dealership name is this, I know probably you went to buy, and I know, okay, maybe I can even go into, did you do car registration? What did you do? I can then trace all that to even find where your car is. Man, there's a lot of data to trace people, and people don't know what they're playing with.
And they gave it to them for free.
They gave it them for free. I don't know. When this stuff gets me giddy, because in my mind, I can tell you the whole story just in 2 minutes. I can tell you how they trace you in 2 minutes, because the data is, you gave the government the data in a package. You say, here, because of $20,000, you have access to my life. Here, you fucked up. I'm sorry, you messed up.
No, you said you fucked up. But like JM said, business owners was taking the money and sending people home and not paying them. But But once again, when the government,
yeah,
they're gonna look at the employees and make sure they still getting paid.
So that's the problem. You said business owners, right? And they're not paying employees. So business owners take it. Did they transfer it to the employee's bank account? Did the employees file something? How did that money reach the employee? Because there's going to be a traceability factor in there.
Right.
Has to be. Then the question is, if he said no, I gave the employees cash. So you drew the money.
Oh.
You gave the employee cash. Okay, the employee comes in. Did you get the money? Yeah. Did you spend it? Yeah. On what?
Right.
I need to trace that. How can I trace that? And you can trace that. There's a lot of ways you can trace a lot of stuff. That's why big data is important. Understanding big data is key. Because now that's the way people are using. Even you said in the stadium, when people are tracking your facial recognition. The question I asked everyone in the stadium, you tracked all this data, you have my information. Are you storing it in a server somewhere and utilizing some in ways to detect terrorism or stuff? What are you using that data for?
Facts.
So there's a lot of stuff.
Let me read these next three real quick. Like you just talked about, complex beneficiary ownership. Minimum set of information needs to be collected from business ownership with more than 20% of the ownership, including owner name, title ownership, percentages, taxpayer's identification number, address, date of birth. Such information could be distorted or omitted so that multiple applications could be filed at different institutions. That's what they were talking about. That one building was reported in 1,300 of those filings. Errors in forgiveness calculations. Borrowers are trying to manipulate fund ratios to meet forgiveness, right? Because if you meet a certain threshold, they forgive the loan. Suspicious information update. Data points such as address, name, or phone number changes for those used in the application, right? So all it's been big data points that they're going to run the algorithm on you. Go ahead.
And the funny thing, someone, I have a wife, I have two 18-year-olds. I file for PPP loan for one business, and another one files for PPP loan, and they get like 10 million. I can still run a classification algorithm or a cluster to find a relationship between all of y'all and how that business is related. And I'm going to find out, and I can see the outliers on how it was spent. Once you give government that data, the access to that data, they have every right to utilize everything. So they're not only using what's available to them, they're using outside sources.
Oh yeah,
Facebook,
data brokers too. Go ahead, they got
data
data
brokers, Facebooks, all that. Where is that money flowing to? So they even said it. They're not just using one source. They're using external sources to know your spending habits, your spending patterns, and figure out where you spend that money. You're going to be in court one day. They're going to show you where you spend the whole check. Right. And you're like, wow, y'all already got it, all that. This is how it is. This is what big data does.
Yeah. Let's leave the last three up. Compliance red flags, general compliance red flags such as adverse media hits, sanction hits, and anti-money laundering alerts emerges. So a lot of banks doing that up front. So if you like engineering, you moving more than 10,000, we know you coming up on money laundering reports straight off the bank. Illicit funds claims as COVID-19 relief. Money laundering could take over stressed small businesses and use those accounts to launder dirty money by claiming illicit funds as relief loans. Although this is technically anti-money laundering red flag, it could be detected by fraud and analytics. Last one, coordinated fraud red flags. Organized crime rings submitting multiple applications using identities phished or stolen from eligible businesses. The applications are likely to contain valid identities, but they might also have suspicious correlations, such as receiving account numbers or digital contact information that indicated it was a coordinated fraudulent attack, right? Because most people are going to be greedy, so they're going to try to use that same information in multiple accounts. Shout out to JM. So that's what he was talking about. That chime in on that, engineering cannabis.
Man, it's everything. All these, and again, these are just a few red flags.
Yeah.
This ain't the whole enchilada.
No.
This is the few. They're not even telling you what they got from social media, public outlets, how they traced you going on vacation. How they trace how much you spend on vacation?
Facts.
You going out of the country to Italy or Rome or Russia or so on. How much did you spend in that place? How much did you transfer to internationally, where you spent and bought some luxury properties, all that stuff? How much did you spend? How did you get that money out? All
Facts.
this will be traced and calculated and understood. Like, hey, what did you do with this money? How? And the funny thing is, people gonna spend when people who spend the money. If you're gonna do this, I'm not gonna. Again, I'm not telling anybody to do this. My advice. This is ancient.
Fact. This is for educational purposes. Go ahead.
This is
Educational
this is again. I don't want nobody coming knocking on my door telling people I'm advising people to do stuff. So people gonna go in jail. People
facts. They already going. Go ahead.
people, if you're going to jail and you go in jail for 20,000, 50,000, 100,000, you need to be smacked.
Facts.
Because again, you're gonna pay that money and go to jail. But if you go to jail going for 70 million and they tell you to just pay back 20, man, dude, I clap for you. But yeah, good luck with that.
Let me read this quick slide. Hold up. And let me read this one. This gonna chime in. Because the banks, like we talked about, the banks get information. So this was another data point. I pulled it out. It's called probable cause.
Yeah.
In around June 20th, representatives of Citizen Bank informed the FBI several businesses applied for a PPP loan. They were flagged by the bank's underwriting team because the financial documents provided by the loan application appeared super similar. Once again, you try to be greedy, you don't change the date enough, so the bank's gonna snitch on you. Subsequently, investigated activities conducted by the FBI and the SBA identified PPP and the IDL loan applications were appeared connected either by being supported with identical or similar documentation or by having a nexus of George and this guy in total 19 loan applications for $3 billion, for which 16 were PPP loans for $2 million and 3 for that. He had the identical information on all 16 of those information. So the bank's gonna snitch on you. Run with that.
Not only banks, but people gonna snitch too. So they don't even account of people who snitch. So if someone comes in and say, hey, I think this guy got a PPP loan. He here yesterday he was riding a Toyota Corolla. Today he riding a new Range Rover.
He got the Benz.
Today he got a big body Benz. Yesterday he was riding a 2006 Toyota Corolla. Today he riding a big body Benz. People gonna snitch.
Yeah.
So when they snitch, they say, okay, that's a probable cause. So let me go look at his bank accounts. Did he apply for this? That just even people snitching is a cause for them to start looking at your loan process. So again, there's a lot of traceability in this. And again, if I was the person doing this, I would have first looked at all this and say, hey, they want my information. They have access to my information. If they do that, it means they can trace where all this money is going to. Then at that point, if you were smart enough, you either say, no, I'm not signing up for the loan, or you do something else. But again, I'm not going to give anybody advice. I never took the loan, so I'm not giving anybody advice.
I didn't. So real quick, let's touch on this. Is of course Amazon, they got a service for it. And the cool thing about Amazon fraud is they give you their data points for it because they've been trying to block fraud for them 15 years because people were stealing stuff from Amazon when they first came out. So they have a ton of fraud data points, right? So it's not the best, but they do have a ton of stuff that you get with their service. So at the end, you can feed it into their fraud detector. You can load data, inspect data. You can enrich it by adding your own data, select algorithms. This is engineering cannabis point. You can train their models. They're going to give you the base data, but you can train it to look at certain things.
Yeah.
You can validate the performance. And two is you can do their fraud detector, and they have a fraud API. So I think it's a service for beginners like me or something you can add to a company or to an organization. Chime in on that engineering cannabis.
So again, this is what most banks utilize this, Amazon, and what I think what Amazon does is great because as new ways come in to defraud the bank, what Amazon does is take those new ways and new systems and then retrain the algorithm to go detect what the new ways is, because again, there are new ways people are basically going to use fraud. There are new practices. So the goal is to always update these algorithms to detect new ways, new accounts, new processes. So Amazon does that, but for certain, like for certain for certain, let's say, legal entities, I wouldn't advise them to use any of this because, like, for instance, police. I don't think the police should have access to not fraud detection but AI in terms of facial recognition. I don't think they should have that access yet because, again, it's still the for instance, the facial recognition is still not the best right now. We still have a lot of issues with bias in AI and all that. Recently, I just read that 85% of all algorithms in the world has bias in them.
Oh, facts. Yeah,
85%.
it's a high number.
So if 85% has bias in them, that's why social media will never tell you how they rank their people who they want to rank in terms of how YouTube ranks their best people they want to basically show off in terms of YouTube or promote more. YouTube will never tell you their algorithms. So it's
No,
Facebook, and they will never, because if they tell you, you're going to ask that question. What features are you using to judge
man.
this algorithm? Because if you tell me what I'm seeing is your algorithm is saying if you're white and female, they get pushed up. So if you're black,
Facts.
what happens? So
You
that's why that's why YouTube, Facebook will never ever tell you, because if they tell
no,
you, they're gonna get lawsuits bigger than
right,
lawsuits. And this is what
right.
AI and all that is. Even with fraud detection. If you have a problem detecting a black man, differentiating a black man with a lighter skin with another one, there's a problem. If you can,
Facts,
if
man.
your algorithm can't do that. So again, the fraud detection and all that, those are great in terms of tracking patterns, in terms of your spending habits and all that. But again, with this kind of power, responsibilities needs to put. The law doesn't even recognize data as an entity.
Facts,
Data
facts.
right now is anybody can own data, anybody can do anything with data. Data is not regret. If money is an entity, data should be an entity, but it's not.
Facts.
Your data, your data is not. Your data is nothing to be. No, has no protection. So I can
No,
use it to do a lot of stuff.
good and bad. Like you said, good and bad. Let's
So
read this one real quick. From him. Even if folks use structuring to deposit less than, yeah, because no, you're right. Structuring is you trying to hide from the government and structure your deposits. If you deposit 4 deposits at
it's gonna trigger.
$9,999, it's
It's
gonna
it's gonna
come
trigger.
up. Yeah, it's gonna
It's gonna
trigger because you
it's
try
gonna
and
trigger.
structure. Yeah,
You
so
saying
they already got
no,
those in there.
that's easy. You weak
Yeah,
thinking. It's gonna trigger.
no, that's it. So fire for fridge. I appreciate that. Could they still track online activity even if you use a private DNS? Yeah, because they're not tracking your traffic, they tracking your transactions, right? So they
Yes.
got search warrants and they're giving up your data on the other side. Go ahead with that.
They're using everything.
Yeah,
Again, you're not using one source. They're using
yeah,
every sources. Your buying habits, your buying
yeah,
patterns, where you go, your vacation. If today you ain't going vacation in last year, in 2 years, and today you're going to Bora Bora, how you get that money to go to Bora Bora?
right, right. So
You
it's
ain't
not.
going. You
Yeah,
ain't
they're
going
not
to.
track. Yeah, they're not tracking they're not tracking your transaction. They're tracking the transaction on the other side. So
Facts.
the bank's giving it up, like he said. The travel agent is giving it up. The cruise
Yeah.
ship is giving it up. Go
You,
ahead.
today you ain't even know how to spell Paris. Then tomorrow you going to Paris. What, since when? You even know where Europe is? Or you
Facts,
going where
facts.
you going? So this is what it is. This is what is going on. So if I can know all this, your spending habits, I see I see in Facebook you got a Louis bag, and you got a Rolex watch, and I know you're broke ass collecting you still collecting government assistance. How you go,
Facts, facts.
how you rolling a Rolex watch and a Louis bag, and you going to Bora Bora, and you still collecting government assistance? Something ain't adding up.
No,
So
I'll
this is
catch
how it is.
41. We trying to get our samples up like engineering cannabis so we can identify minorities correctly. I did a video on a black guy in Detroit got falsely arrested. The crazy thing is when the police looked at it, it was definitely not him. So he's got a lawsuit. Shout out to Tech Xavier. He's new in the game. He's getting his subscribers up. He got subscribers. You got your hours yet, Tech Xavier? Go check out a couple of his training. They 4 hours, hit the button and go to dinner, man. Help my man get his hours so he can get monetized. Go ahead and chime in on that, engineering cannabis.
But yeah, it's ridiculous. It's just gonna be more and more. This is going again. They have 10 years, so I have 10 years to scour all this data. And man, I know people they're going to use 2-3 years. A lot of people going to get arrested.
Oh, they getting arrested. Shout out to the Pocket Watcher. He does a short video of somebody getting arrested. That's what made me think of. Let me read this real quick on this slide, real quick, engineer.
Sure.
Amazon fraud. They give you identity suspicious to online payments. Detect new accounts. Well, like you said, if you're doing a fraudulent account, sometime when you sign up new, they know certain IPs are illegal and certain email accounts are already being. Prevent trial and loyalty program and abuse account takeover detection. So once again, Amazon's been doing that for decades for their website. So in their fraud, right, they're giving it giving those models out to everyday people.
No, they're selling again. When they say they're selling it.
Facts, my fault.
Oh, no, they're not giving. They're selling it.
Facts.
They're not giving you. They sell it. This is part of the stuff they sell to Bank of America.
Facts.
All these banks, they give them the fraud detection. All institution that deals with money, they utilize fraud detection. If you know how many fraud detection algorithms I've seen, it's ridiculous. They're using most banks use all this to fraud detect. Anytime you get a phone call from your bank saying, "Hey, did you make this charge on this date?" For instance, I don't steal, but if I'm gonna go collect someone else's credit card and go buy 3 PS5s, and they're gonna call the person and say, "Hey, did you make this transaction?" And all this is from fraud detection, because those transactions are coming out from your bank account based on your spending patterns, based on your location patterns, based on patterns you utilize. So if your pattern is you've never spent past 5,000 in a month, and currently I see a detection of 8,000 or 6,000 in a location in France, and I know you don't do all that, that's a red flag. I'm going to call the person and say, "Did you make this purchase?" That's why they call you first to ask.
Facts.
And then they go from.
Yeah, I was stuck. I was trying to switch a flight in Vegas, and they blocked my credit card because I didn't go to Vegas in like 5 years. I'm like, "Hey," I had a backup credit card. I'm like, "Hey, I need this transaction. I'm trying to leave early." So you got to call your bank sometime because, like you said, they doing your location and what you normally do. And I ain't been to Vegas. They like, "Oh, that has to be fake." I'm like, "No, I'm trying to switch my flight."
So these are just pattern recognitions. Right. So that should tell you something. If banks have your patterns, what are they doing? If they understand your patterns, your spending behaviors, your spending habits, now I can, based on your spending habits, I can then say, this guy can. I don't need to know I also have access to how much you get goes into your bank on a daily basis. So at that point, I have your whole life. Your whole life, your whole banking history, your whole financial history. I know how it works. And that's, people think money is the only powerful thing a bank owns. The most powerful thing they own is your data, your patterns, how you spend money, how you receive money. If I know you didn't receive money this month, I know probably you got fired from your job or you retired.
Facts, one of the two.
So these are the stuff.
They're gonna take your age in there too. Okay, he's not working and he's 50, he's fired. He's 70, he might retire.
He might have retired or something. I just made that assumption just by looking at those stuff. This is how powerful data is, and the banks have this. But nobody's bringing out laws to say, what are you doing with my data? Are you using it to create? They can use this to create credit cards for a certain class of people.
They already do that. So
they say, hey, if you black and this, we can't give you this because we know your spending habits. We know your spending
Oh no,
patterns.
you gonna get the high interest, low limit. They
We're
got one
gonna
for
give you
you.
that line. You gonna spend.
We
This
gonna
is
give you
how
that
it
low
works.
limit. We gonna give you the
Uh,
low limit
this is
with
how
high
it works.
interest.
With
Cause
high
you
interest.
risky. You risky. So we gonna give you a high interest
High
and a
interest.
low
This
credit.
is why banks are getting in trouble. Banks are not getting in trouble because they deploy algorithms that don't keep up with what's going on currently, or they do it just because they want to do it. Because again, how can a bank? Again, I told you 85% of all algorithms have bias. How can a bank not give loans to black people but give loans to white people, more white people? Because that inbuilt bias. Over time, that algorithm says black people have higher risk of defaulting on loans.
Oh, fine.
So we are not going to do. This is what algorithms do. 85% has bias, but again, there are no laws to tell you, hey, this algorithm, my data is an entity. My data is personal. My data is powerful, protected. But there isn't anybody. It's a free for all right now, and there's a lot of money to be made.
Let me read this real quick. Also, this is from Jam. Azure also gives some free security tools and recommendations because all the big companies got fraud. You're gonna have Azure, Google, Amazon, Azure, Google, Oracle. They all have those type of fraud related things because they're big companies. So they also have security tools, right? So if you're at that level and you're at least in the first quadrant of the zone, you're gonna have those type of tools. And online it's just Amazon. Basically, when you do your sign-in page, like Engineering Camp, they got the credit card API to verify your identity at the bottom. Then they send the rest of that stuff on a fraud, and we'll look at some of it. They're gonna look at your IP address, right? If your IP address is the same for different users, that's fraud, right? You're coming from the same computer, right? So they tracking your IP address.
I mean,
all of that. Go ahead and chime in on that. So I got the flow up at the top. Go ahead.
It's again. That's why I try to tell people, try to understand how data works. And again, data is not just my side of it, understanding data science. There's the other side of it, on building the networks. There are different sides of data, but trying to understand how everybody's using data to just manipulate you.
Facts.
But nobody, again, we as black people, we ignore the signs in here. Again, nobody's talking about this in YouTube. Nobody will tell you about data.
It's rare.
Now, but this stuff I'm telling you right now is stuff, even if who's going to tell you this? Nobody's ever talked about how banks utilize data to do all this. Nobody's telling you that. Do you think I want to come here and I don't want banks to call me up and say, hey, dude, what are you doing? But banks and all this, they're using this every day. They're getting lawsuits, but nobody's asking that questions. Why are you getting lawsuits every time? What are you using to judge? Again, if you look at it, just look at it. Banks are not hiring more people. They're automating their process. So decisions are not being made by people. They're made by automated systems. But the question is, what are they feeding the automated systems to make those decisions? If you're not hiring more people, then you're automating.
If somebody dropped the bar for you, they say the code is line engineering cannabis says the access to data is what makes banks powerful. that was the bar. Let me read these last three. I remember the old scandal between Wachovia and Wells Fargo for moving like the mafia, laundering money and guns, and they were redlining. They were digitally redlining black people for housing loans at Wells Fargo. Because like engineering cannabis, because I'm black in a certain area, they lumped my data with everybody else and said you can't get a loan, man. They were digitally redlining people, man. So you got to be careful with that. Massive data collection. Yep. So I'm going to do that. Mass surveillance goes along with that. They also can detect fraud based on time, attempt, resources you're trying, 100%.
Those are features. Again, those are a lot of features. It's not one feature. They're using a lot.
Who's programming the system? Outcast 40. Well, it ain't us. Engineering cannabis. I think he's the only ML and AI guy, black guy, I think, in the manosphere. I don't know. I touch on it a little bit, but I I think it's just me and you.
Yeah,
BS
and
talk about it from a money perspective, making
yeah,
money, but go ahead, engineer.
the problem is this: it's highly mathematical. Even the time series. You
Yeah.
even talked of time series. I'm utilizing time series right now to predict stock market, to see the trends of a stock market. That's a whole time series is a textbook word of knowledge that I'm still even reading right now. The problem is this subject is highly mathematical and highly intensive.
Right.
And unless you have that zeal to continue reading this, you're not going to do it. And again, I'm sorry, I love my black folks, but we're not in this field.
Yeah, we ain't into math, and we definitely ain't into that. So,
And again, if people know how to use, that's a messed up part. They're using this technology to manipulate you.
facts.
In history, the first goal of understanding how you're being manipulated is understanding the source and how you're being manipulated, understanding how it's being used. But we are still ignorant on that. We don't want to understand that big data. We really don't want to understand it. I can tell you how banks use data to just, even Uber use data to just manipulate. Uber of all people can use data to manipulate
Oh,
hell of everybody. How come Uber has a credit card? How come Wingstop got a credit card? Why should Wingstop have a credit card?
We eat a lot of chicken. Now I'm just playing.
No, I gotta ask that question. Why is
Facts.
Wingstop having a credit? Why is any stores? Why is Target and everybody having a credit card? Basically, at that point, they're a financial institution. Now they have access not only to
Facts.
your money,
Facts.
but to your data. Why are they turning into financial institution? Why is nobody asking that question?
You
What
get them
the
loyalty, the loyalty program too, man. They can tell you
yeah?
what day you usually go, and because I'm
What?
a habit, I go to the same place every Tuesday, man. They can show where you at and what you gonna spend. Go ahead.
And the funny thing is, recently, do you know the most popular chain in the most popular fast food chain utilize big data on a daily basis? Chick-fil-A.
Oh,
Chick-fil-A. Imagine Chick-fil-A, the most powerful chain. They utilize data to know they're not opening. They can not open on Sunday, but yet still make more profit than every other
yeah.
chain ever. They know how they use big data to determine if they keep people on the line, they can make sure make sure you can spend more money on that and not basically they keep people on the line so you're not going to be alone. They keep people on the line just to keep you company.
Right.
So you don't feel alone. And they also do that. They also did logistics data to see, because again, every fast food place just have one place you can order. So if you pass that place, you can reorder.
Right.
But they use data to decide if you put people in different areas, if they make a mistake in their order, they can call somebody and make their order. They design in such a place to use data to make it so customer friendly that they become the best fast food restaurant ever right now, Chick-fil-A.
Yeah, so you
Everyone
read
else
this.
has none.
No,
They
so
use
let me
data
read
to
this
do that.
slide. You would like this slide right here is the detector model is trained with the labeled data sets. This is some of the few, like we talked about, the
Yeah.
IP address,
Yep.
the email. The user agent is where you coming from, what's in your
Mhm.
header, and your location. Right?
Mhm.
Then they got the bill state, billing, phone number.
Address.
Your favorite one, the event timestamp, so you
Stamp.
get your series going on with the event label, right? Fraud
Yeah.
or legitimate, right? So those are some of the base things that they get from your browser and what you put in, right?
These are
And
just
the
a few
timestamp
features.
stamp.
Yeah.
Yep.
These are
So they
just a
can get
few
in.
features. Yeah.
Yep. So this is it. And shout out to
Why are they having your zip code? What the hell are they having your look?
you know what?
This stuff is. Imagine what Amazon has.
Oh my God.
No. Just imagine what Amazon has. Amazon can detect what your spending patterns is to the point when a woman is pregnant, they can detect
from what you buy.
What?
And the people don't even realize that. And two is they get in your life. They're like, this dude is buying 2 negligees in different sizes. He got the side babe.
And the funny thing,
Amazon can tell everything.
and the funny thing, they have voice recognition. your
Facts,
Siri,
facts.
your Alexa. You say,
Yeah.
Alexa, I want diapers. I want this. That data that data is basically transferred to the Amazon website. Oh, this girl want diapers, or this girl recorded diapers in a list, a grocery list.
Yeah.
They have access to Alexa's database. So do you know
Oh yeah.
what kind of power they have? They have voice recognition. They have your spending pattern. They have your address. They have your credit card history. They have your location. They have everything to know where you are today.
Yeah.
If
And
I
the
can,
cool.
I can pinpoint where you are right now. If
Yeah.
I can have access to Amazon, I can tell you where you are and where you're gonna be in the next 30 minutes.
Yeah, the
With all
weird thing
that,
is they were combining that with weather. So they were Walmart
well,
said, okay, you buy this and hurricanes coming out, we're gonna send you Pop-Tarts, extra plywood, extra nails, they're gonna have it
I,
in the front for you. They're gonna
I,
put all that data
the
together.
mess,
Go ahead.
the messed up part is they have weather again. They have weather patterns, so they know okay,
Yeah,
in the next 3 months there's gonna be a snowstorm. So in the next 3 months we're gonna load the nearest station near us with all the snow
yeah,
equipment, all that, so they can sell out.
yeah.
They
They
have
already
all
know.
this. They have it all to a T, and it's not because they love you guys. It's because they know your data. They know how powerful your data is. They know how to predict your pattern. They know how to predict what you want, when you want it, and when how you want it. This is how data is. But again,
Yeah.
we're so concerned with all the stuff that if I tell you what I see right now, what I see on a daily basis, I laugh. On every minute of the day, I see how spending and pattern. I see patterns everywhere. When I look at, I said, even Netflix. I watch Netflix. I start laughing
Oh yeah, man.
because I see patterns and say, okay, this is what they're doing. Is this how they're going to class? Is it?
Yeah.
They can figure out your personality based on what you watch.
Oh yeah, easy.
Netflix can figure out your not even figure out just your watching, but your personality on a
Mhm.
day-to-day basis based on your watching habits. Do you know how
Let me read.
powerful that is?
Yeah, let me read these couple chats coming in. Black people are what, 3%? I think we're actually 5 or 6% outcast in tech, but it's such a big broad. It feels more like 1%. Do you recommend Chromebook for guest modes, or if you do not want people to leave? I think that's pretty good, JM. I just feel um like Engineer Cannabis says, is when you order stuff in uh Facebook or Amazon, they know who you are because you logged in. So it don't matter if you put those. Now, if you just trying to hide your normal search, but a lot of people don't realize is you logged on to Google and Chrome, they got those trackers actually in the browser. So theoretically, if you go to trace mode, it might help you.
And the messed up stuff is they give you incentive to get your data. They give you
Yeah,
Amazon Prime. What
facts.
the hell?
So, like,
Wait, you getting paid? You paying Amazon to have your data because again, you want your delivery in 2 to 3 days in one day.
hours. I
You
give
want
it
it hours.
because I'm in Indiana. It's the middle of the nation, so everything go
Yeah.
through here. There's six big centers here for Amazon. Most stuff I order, if I order it at 8, I'm gonna get it that same evening.
So they give you incentive to collect your data. So you want Amazon Prime, you want Netflix on a cheap, you want Hulu, but they're taking all this data from you and they're saying, okay, you're getting entertained, but they're getting more rewards from that because again,
Yeah,
I can market to you. I know again, Netflix knows psychology. When a pregnant woman is pregnant and she start watching certain movies and all that, of course, I'm going to say, oh, she's interested in all these lovely movies. Let me market ice cream to her. Let me
right.
market this to her. They can use all this to determine your feelings, what you're feeling right now, based on what you're watching. Do you know, man? I'm looking at it, I'm like, man, they have a lot of control in this. Nobody's talking about this.
Yeah, because we, like you said, we get a free. What's your thought on this? Are data engineers expected to know anything on AI or ML?
No,
I don't. I no,
no,
I don't think so.
no.
That's a special category, and they
Uh,
get paid for that
Yeah,
special category. Go
I'm
ahead on it.
I'm not. like data engineers, they build the pipelines.
Yeah.
The CI, CD, they build all the pipelines from where the data is housed to where it's then given to me. Then I process it and apply the algorithms and tell you all the story about it. I don't have the skills of a data engineer. I don't want the skills of the data engineer.
Yeah.
I tried it, but I don't want to do it.
No.
I'd rather spend time in the algorithms and
Shout out
understanding.
to B2B.
Yeah, so you really don't need to know AI and ML. AI and ML is highly statistical and statistics.
Fine.
Data engineers don't really need to know the statistics.
Yeah.
They know how to need the code, understand the data pipelines, where it's stored, the warehousing, and all that. But they really don't need to know AI.
Yeah, but like me and B2B gonna do a collab on that because he's actually a data engineer, data scientist, and part of that is we're gonna show you how you move raw data, get it rolled up, get it into a warehouse, get it into a data lake, and put it in a format so Engineering Cannabis can take that data and put it in his ML models and AI. Engineering Cannabis, he can chime in. He wants it to be in a certain format so he can do his thing, but he's not gonna get it to the raw format to the data lake or up in the warehouse to make it easy for him to do his
thing. So the
thing.
goal of the data engineer is for him to present the data in a raw form that I can then put in my algorithms. So I'm not involved in trying to take it and put it in a database or data warehouse or then basically create it to be. No, my job at the end of the day is where's the data located? The data engineer tells you this is where the data is located. This is where it's housed. Now my question is, do I have access to it and can I get it out? Yes, you can. And that's the data engineers are that. Me as a data scientist is okay, I've pulled the data out. I need to understand. I need to beat that data up to understand what's the data telling me. And that's what I do on a daily basis. But the data engineers are the ones who give me the data for me to be able to, and that job alone is a task because you're not dealing with a small data terabyte. You're doing a huge amount of data. So if the data engineer is not there, even me accessing the data will be a problem. If I don't even have access, I can't do my job. So that is a huge.
Yeah. So once again, me and B2B gonna talk like you said. So once again, I'm an Amazon. So they got Amazon Redshift that's supposed to be able to handle a 20 petabyte database. You know, you can spin up 20 machines underneath. So when Engineering Cannabis hits his query, it's running in parallel and pulling all that information into a model he needs. But like you said, those are separate things. And I do the security, so I got to make sure the data don't get stolen while we move it over there, right?
Yeah. So that's why everybody. I always tell people there's no one aspect into big data. Your goal is to pick one side.
Fine.
Professor Black Ops chose the security. B2B data engineer. I chose data science. The other sides, the other bigger sides. Even that's what people. And I don't know why I'm trying to do this to develop I'm going to do it. I have a PDF where I have all how the whole big data process works and where each person who wants to get involved, from the creation of the sensors to the collection of the data to the processing of the data, how each side, you need security, you need technicians, you need business analysts, you need project
architects, all of that, architects.
Like,
make sure
like my job. Once I do my job, the whole it's not still done because again, it has to be implemented into the business. So you need product managers, you need business folks to implement my ideas on that side. I'm not going to implement it. My job is to tell you, hey, this is what the data says. This is what I predict is going to happen. These are what you need to put in place for it not to happen or for it to happen. Then the business guys do it. I'm not going to do it for them. So there's a long list of how data is utilized.
A lot of jobs in there. Yeah.
A lot of jobs. A lot of jobs.
I used to do that for DOD. I used to do data warehousing. And like you said, we got it ready, but we let the data scientists, there's no AR ML. We just got the data ready so they could query some stuff and do some business analysis on some stuff. It went to the next level as the ML and artificial intelligence, right?
Even the cloud. Again, cloud is involved in big data. So you have cloud, this cloud side. You have DevOps side. You have networking. In order for you to transfer that data from There's a
Yeah.
lot of aspects of it.
Yeah, shout out to Amazon. I've been getting my certs. They actually have a machine learning cert now too,
Yeah.
so that's a big part of it. And shout out to him. And yeah, I think Amazon's gonna go back up to 3,000 for the stock. So,
No,
what's your Outcast says? What's your thoughts on? We've been talking about predictive analysis. Is what he's talking about doing. How you do all that so you can predict what's gonna happen.
That's my bread and butter. Right now, I work on predictive analysis. I'm looking again on my side for stuff like stock markets. I use time series to try to predict how the stock market will work. I use predictive analysis on looking at heart conditions. I was working with a company that tries to predict how your heart will get affected based on a lot of variables, your eating habits, your exercise habits, where you're from. There's a lot of variables that account just for your heart, how your heart functions. So I'll try to predict as you age, if you continue doing what you're doing, when will that heart expire or die?
Yeah.
So you do predictive analysis. Again, there's a lot of predictive analysis. There's a lot of math involved in it. So it's a very powerful tool, and banks use it. They use quants. Banks. That's why when I laugh when people say they're day traders and all that. I'm like, banks don't utilize all this stuff you see on the internet. Banks utilize quants. They do high mathematical algorithms. Right. They utilize deep learning. They utilize numerical analysis. They utilize machine learning. I mean, I've seen stuff that I'm like, wow. And people come here like, banks don't do what y'all do on a daily basis. Banks utilize stuff. What I'm reading, banks utilize stuff you don't even know. And and the funny thing is, do you go by the most profitable company or do you go by an individual? If the most profitable entity is a bank that utilizes quants and high mathematical equations to determine the future of a stock market, and you're trying to compare it to someone in the internet, there's something you got to think about first.
Yeah, like you said.
So
let me read this real quick. Coming to you. What's more crazy is that we're asking for these things because of our desire to have a more customized and concierge-like services. Yeah, because what Amazon did with Prime is they lost money, but now they to a certain point where they can send you one item in 4 hours and they can make money now, right? Because they're at such a scale, right? Because like you said, we want everything now, concierge service. You want to order today, and at most you want it tomorrow. A lot of times, if Amazon said it's 3 days, now you're upset. That's too long. Go ahead.
Look at how messed up Uber Eats. You have Uber Eats. You have Instagram, Instacart. You have Walmart now bringing its own concierge service. You have people now delivery. You have delivery from your store to your house. They're not taking all this because they think it's easy. They're taking all this to build that database, to understand everybody's spending habits, to understand if Amazon, if I know if for instance in Indiana, if all the Amazon stores have data on everybody's shopping, taking out what they shop on a daily basis, and I have all that data, don't you know I can predict how to stock up my stores logistically? Do I really need to waste food at that point? I can exactly predict how much you're going to eat, when you're going to eat, and how much. And if you have a visitor, I'm going to predict that too, and I'm going to account for that. So the goal is you trying to predict your spending patterns and all that just for you. And they're using your data. And again, everybody's shouting laws on women and all that, but the laws they should be shouting is your data. Right. Laws on women and all that, that's nice, but they suppress everything so much. They suppress it and make it complicated, saying if we tell you about the math and all, you're not going to understand it. We're just going to do it for you and make it easy. And then you just give them your life in a platter of gold. You actually give them your data and everything in a platter of gold. And they use it and they say, we're going to use it. And that's right. And no YouTuber is going to come out and tell you this because no YouTubers understand this. Most YouTubers don't really understand big data. No.
Let me read this real quick. The Amazon offers those Amazon offers those physical boxes that Azure offers to transfer terabytes of data. You're wrong, JM, because you got to remember AWS was the first Azure before Azure. Amazon had a 15-year head start on data centers before Microsoft even started. So Amazon actually is the biggest. I think they got 38% of the market. I think Azure is right behind them with 28. I think Google had 10, and the rest was split up among everybody else. So now Amazon does more than boxes. People think Amazon lost money on fulfillment. They made their money on AWS. AWS makes $4 billion of profit every year. The money maker in Amazon is not boxes. The computer power pays for all those big data center and boxes so they can lose money. Go ahead, engineering campus.
That's what I'm saying. The biggest money maker, and everybody keeps. The funny part is when you keep saying, everybody keeps saying it. Data is more powerful, worth more than knowing. But then I asked them, do you really know what your data is worth? And do you really understand what your data is worth? Do you know how banks can actually look at all of you and try to say, oh man, this person in the next 5 years ain't going to be able to own a house. He's going to be a renter. Do you know how powerful that is? To be able to predict a group of people, you're going to be a renter for the next 10, 20 years.
Yeah, but I tell you something more powerful than that. I always ask people is Facebook doesn't sell anything. They sell your ads. Facebook makes about $4 billion a year. That's on your data you give them for free. At least Amazon can say they move. Facebook sells ads, political ads. That's what they sell. That's your data you give for them free. That's how they make $1 billion with free data.
Facebook's making money from your data. All the social media is making money from your data. Your data is gold. But again, we give it out for free. And they use that money to go buy political power.
Facts.
So they can suppress any legislation or anybody who's going to ask that question. What are you doing with my data?
Facts.
Because again, your data is an entity. If you understand it well, and you understand you have patterns, every human has patterns. At the end of the day, you know what's going to be funny? At the end of the day, you are just an algorithm. And and your algorithm on it, this is how the world is going to end. Not end. This is how the world is going to go towards. Every individual is going to be an algorithm. You're spending your location. Everything's going to be predictable. When you finish college, how you finish college, then they go decide, okay, let's predict how his life is going to be going from here.
Yeah.
Who are you going to marry? Basically, based on that's the messed up part. Based on they're going to classify it based on people you're around. Who are you likely to marry? Then from there, they're going to predict if you marry, where you likely going to spend your life based on your occupation and all that. They predict where you're going to likely stay. They can predict that.
Yeah.
And that's with your data. So the question is, why isn't anybody asking that question? Why are we spending so much time on the unnecessary when people are using your data to make billions and understand what's going on?
Because they don't want you to wake up, man. So let me read this. Helmut, I think people are buying up farmlands, aka Bill Gates. He made all that money off Microsoft. Now he's buying up all the farmland with the money he spent. Yeah, shout out to Salesforce. They're at the second tiers for data modeling. They have a good platform. They're actually more WYSIWYG and make it easier to use too. They're actually running on Oracle's data center too. Shout out to Mark Benioff, him and Larry Ellison. The cool kind of grew up together. So shout out to them. So let me read this slide. Let me read this slide real quick. We talk about attack vectors on that. Fraud attack vectors are mechanisms by which bad actors obtain fraudulent access to application in order to exploit the system. The most common fraud vectors when you sign up, we were showing that in there. Synthetic identities is identities that are made up as used for disposable emails or email tumbling. This method involves unique email addresses for every sign-up attempt. The fraudulent sign-up attempts either carried out by individual groups of users or even automated system bots can use. Another sophisticated form of fraud attack vectors includes collusion behavior, also known as collusion fraud. In this scenario, a group of users gain access to the system and perform transactions in coordination with each other. Kind of like the PPP loans when they were trying to, one person would fill out all the PP forms, right? That was a coordination attack. Go ahead and chime in on that.
That alone, if one person fills it out, you just have to query that name, and when they query it, they see this dude has 50 PPP loan documents under him. That's an outlier. Something wrong with this.
Or his IP address, because he ain't smart enough to shout out to JM. He not hiding his IP address.
Not even the IP address. If you're doing it in, if you're doing it within a certain zone, you're doing it in 5. You filled out 10, 20 application within a sector in three different Starbucks around in the same vicinity. I'm going to try to flag that out. The same people in the 2-mile radius from his office, something wrong. I need to check that out. So these are the ways data can tell you stuff.
Yeah, and like engineering cannabis, if you look on the screen, the Amazon fraud is going to tell if it's kind of low risk or high risk with its model. So you can tell if I need to sign up, if it's low risk, if it's medium risk, I need to do some more checks on it. If it's super high risk, I'm just going to block them, right? And that's kind of what the model is going to help you with when you sign up. I think that's all. Let me read tech. Xavier had an excellent question. He said, I'm not sure if I'm asking the right questions. How do we turn our data into an asset for ourselves instead of big corporations? What's your thought on that? That's a hard question.
My question. The first thing is understand how it works. Then figure out if the businesses are using it, why not try to, don't get me wrong, I'm trying to use people's data to make money. I'm not going to lie that. I'm going to try to use other people's data to create an algorithm that works better for something. And if your data is free, why not just do it? So what I'll say is the model is already out there. Facebook, Instagram, they already know how to collect your data and build. So why not use the proven model that works? Use what they do. Try to scale. Marketing, the most popular marketing system is SEO. SEO is your data. SEO is data analytics on a large scale. Marketing is data analytics on a large scale. Most marketing agencies, everybody SEO is big data. Using data to know your spending patterns and all that, and knowing what you view, that's just SEO. It's big data. So use the proven methods that's being used against you, and use it for something else. Right. Again, until the government says your data is an entity and cannot be used. Again, look at the credit rating system. The credit rating system is the most jankiest algorithm I've ever seen. That stuff don't work. That stuff doesn't account for how you progress in life. In terms of when you get a new job, your real raise, if you move it doesn't account for throughout your financial sector. It just takes certain chunks of it and then use certain man, that stuff is janky as hell. The credit systems is not a dynamic system. It's not a dynamic algorithm. It's the most jankiest stuff. And I don't see how people actually, I'm using it, but that's the most jankiest system you can. I don't see why the government didn't just eliminate that or say, look, if you can find an algorithm that really detects how people's financial health is over a certain time, that really detects their financial health, do not deploy this.
It's called lobbyists. It's called lobbyists. It's called lobbyists, engineering academy. They pay money to block that because they make a ton of money doing that.
Because right now, this is the most jankiest system in the world. Because the algorithm doesn't really detect your financial health. And that's what the financial credit system should be able to detect your financial health. But it's the jankiest system in the world. That's why the financial crash, people could just go and remove a lot of stuff in there and go get a house. Because it's the jankiest system that really doesn't account for your financial health.
No. Let me read this real quick. And with Amazon, you can do services together. So a lot of people take their fraud this is their Amazon recognition. It goes through images and videos, and like he said, they still don't work on it, but one of their features, it could tell if you content, you're smiling. It could tell facial recognition. You could tell if you're females, eye open, happy, smiling.
That's the question. Why are they doing that? Why are you trying to figure out whether I'm smiling or not?
Because when you're looking at that ad, I can tell if you're gonna buy it or not, if it's effective, right?
Why?
I can sell that to the.
Why do you need to know if I'm smiling or frowning? Why do you know that I need that? Why do you know if I'm happy? Why do you need to know my sentiment? Why do you need to know that? That's the question nobody's asking. Right. Do you need to know if I'm smiling? Do you know if I'm angry? If I'm watching, again, Netflix is going to use this.
Oh, fine.
Netflix is going to use this to say, okay, while he was watching this, 80% of people watching it were frowning or they weren't happy with it.
Oh, if it's sad, they might want you sad, but go ahead.
90% of people watching it were smiling, man. The comedy was on the point.
Facts.
So
keep pushing it out.
The question is, why are you using facial detection to know if I'm smiling or not? Is this a good way? Then the question is, if this is deployed in the police system, and the police start looking at it and said, based on my facial detection, it tells me this guy looks threatening to me because he squints his eyes. Maybe he got dust in his eye. He's squinting his eye. You gonna shoot him because he got dust in his eye?
Facts. You never, Right.
This is a messed up system that needs to be looked at. But again,
the cool thing with this is a lot of Amazon employees were pushing back on recognition because they were selling it to police. The other one too is the one we were talking about. The labels right there tells if that's a person, if that's a bike, right? So now it could tell a luxury car and the model, right? So now if you got PPP and you got Instagram, if you got a Bugatti, it can tell the model of your cars and all that.
Yeah, just object detection can do that. It's just based on the shape of the car. They're gonna teach my model based on the shape and how it is, what year, what date, and all that. There's pictures and all that. I can do all that right now. It's not difficult.
Yeah, so
that's messed up.
Yeah, so but like we talked about, if you stealing PPP money, you were driving like me. If you had a Chevy Cruze and now you driving a Bugatti, right?
But that's the problem because they're gonna say how often is he in that Bugatti to know is his. If I see him in 60 pictures in that Bugatti and I'm not seeing that Toyota, it's probably his. Can I also use that detection to see if a license plate shows in there? Can I trace that license plate to the DMV system to know who that car is registered in? If it's not registered in his name, can I use that person's registry? Is he related to that person in somehow or business? See how that basically leads to where they're gonna catch you? This is how messed up it is in big data. And I've seen it and I laugh every day. I said, this is messed up.
Helmut said maybe when the smart products are spying, they need to understand our human behavior. The problem is we need to stop them from spying. But go ahead, chime in on that.
Yeah, but we've given them access. We've given everybody access. I laugh, and I keep laughing when people say, "Nah, we're protected." I said, "Nah, your data is everywhere. You're using facial recognition to unlock your phone. You're using your thumbprint to unlock your phone. Really? Do you think they don't have your data? You go to YouTube to complain about women. I have your voice and your face. Dude, no, you don't have any privacy. You think you do, but you don't. Your credit card, your bank account, everything. If I have access to all of that, I can tell a story about you quickly. Where you live, where you work, what you do, how you eat, where you spend your nights, which girlfriend you spend your nights with. If you got a side chick, I can figure all that. That's messed up.
Helmut Chili said, "Is Skynet already here?" It's getting close, man. It's getting close. Is like he said, is the next level of that is when you driving, people know your mannerisms, know when you wake up, because everybody's always on their phone when they wake up. So most of the time they know when you wake up, when you go to bed. So they kind of know, like you said, where you eat, your eating patterns, and everybody just puts all that transactions out there for free. So
for free.
And most of that stuff is digital now. So
and the funny thing is, people complain. I'm like, dude, you think you're not. You're open book right now. If you think you barely understand the technology, if you don't understand it, how you think you're gonna beat it? You're an open book. Everything you do, you take Uber. I know where you live. If I have access to Uber and Amazon, I know your life. If I
Right.
access Uber, Amazon, or your bank, just 3D institution, I know your whole life. I know where you spend your days. Again, I know everything. I know where your house is. I know your closest resident. I know where you take your ride to. I know where you go to work. I know everything about you. Just those using those 3 data sources. And isn't that a problem?
Yeah. So I'm gonna give you the last word, man. I've been on for hour 45. I'm dozing off. I'm tired, but this was a definitely a great subject, and I'm gonna start doing more I call it
Ah,
society stuff. I'm doing this artificial intelligence, machine learning, like you said, mass surveillance. So all of that kind of relates in because, like you said, is people's not voting on that, right? So what
nobody.
is that gonna look like in
They're
the
not even
future?
bringing legislation. I haven't seen any legislation come and says,
I
"Hey,
haven't either.
your data is your biggest entity. We need to protect it." You each company, if you're going to harvest anybody's data, you need to protect it, and the individual needs to own that data. But nobody's asking that question. Your data is free for all. The only thing protected now is your medical data, and it's not even protected.
Oh
It's
no,
just
no,
HIPAA.
HIPAA's horrible. From a cybersecurity, that's one of the worst compliances out there.
HIPAA is just a compliance. HIPAA is not
Yeah,
protecting your data.
yeah,
Look, your
it's
data,
horrible
your data is just your data is,
out
and the
there,
problem.
free.
Your data is a gift to any company who can actually know how to harvest your data and use it well. If you can give Facebook your whole data to build a company, now he's building a secondary company, Meta, there's a problem. There is a problem.
Oh, it is, but like you said, and two is when you put all those data sources together, like you said, it's just a map of somebody's
I
life.
can
It's
tell
just
you, if someone tells me today, Pat, I want you to figure out someone's life and tell me what he does on a daily basis. I said, okay, give me these 3 sources. Give me his Amazon account, give me his bank statement, and give me his Uber. I tell you everything about his life in 24 hours. That's messed up.
yeah. Tech, I think this is what we're gonna do. He said, please post more of these type of videos and ethics behind data, man. Yeah, I am gonna. I think I'm gonna start doing them Tuesday night. Like I said, mass surveillance. And two, my big thing is, and I've been harping, the future of work. I'm gonna throw this question: engineering cannabis. I believe, and I could pull the data is over the next. I think they say 20 years, 30 to 50 million jobs are gonna disappear because of AI, machine learning, and robotics. Right.
Yeah,
So
but
that's why they're giving you a lot of that that
incentives.
that yeah, those incentives. I forgot what he called them, but so yeah, so they're getting you ready because a lot of those jobs are gonna go away. Now, granted,
Um,
there's gonna be a lot of more high paying jobs, but
yeah.
engineering cannabis, there used to be 2,000 secretaries. Don't nobody get their letters
Nobody
back, but the CEO. Everybody trying
nobody
to get
care
a
about
letter.
them secretaries no more.
Yeah, they got taken out. But you remember, it used to be a pool of secretaries.
Yeah,
They're gonna
remember the switchboard. We went from a
facts.
switchboard
Yeah, so that's the
to
future.
secretaries to now we getting VAs now.
Right. The two is the cashier is the new checkout. They make you scan your own food now. So go ahead.
The cashier. If you see, the funny thing is about this is the more the technology grows, the more we're gonna need some. So this is what I was trying to do. I'm trying to create a course for lawyers on AI and ML
Okay.
on how to use, because again, that's people say there's gonna grow because there's gonna be a sector where we're gonna need lawyers just for AI and ML to understand why to prosecute people with AI, because lawyers don't
Yeah.
understand AI and ML.
No,
But
no, they
again,
don't.
it's being used. If Elon Musk is going to use AI and ML and an accident happens, don't you think your lawyer needs to know what's going on with AI? And don't you need to ask that
Yeah.
question?
Yeah, but a real quick question though is I think you need to know, but I think AI and machine learning is gonna take the paralegal out because it's gonna do
No,
all
they're
the
going to take the
paralegal.
parallel, but the lawyers itself, the
Yeah.
law, is going
No,
to
I
create
agree.
another. It's going to create
Yeah.
another sector. The paralegal's gone, but
Yeah.
a new law that
Yeah.
looks into AI and ML that deals with algorithms, that deals with automation, because everything's going to
Mhm.
get automated. So a new sector. So yes, but it's gonna create something again. A new section. Look at law. A new sector for AI. Look at mechanics. It's gonna create a new sector for AI mechanics.
No, I
To
agree with
understand,
that.
or even
But the
but
problem is I think you're gonna need less mechanics because
you're
the
gonna need less.
automation's gonna let you do more with less.
Yeah, you're gonna need less, but it's gonna still change. It's gonna evolve.
Facts.
But you're gonna need more. It's gonna evolve. It's gonna be used less people, but those less people are gonna get paid more
Yeah, hold
because
on real
now
quick.
they have specialized skills.
Yeah, hold on. Let me jump on this question for him. And this is really one of my soapbox items is Uber was spending $90 million a year on lobbyists early on. Folks are not talking about this, but lobbyists are lobbying. This is really a pet peeve with me. What Uber did was violate every state employment law that they could because a lot of foreign immigrants were making $100,000 driving taxi cabs. In New York, it's called a medallion. That was worth $1 million because you had to have them to officially drive. New York said, F that. They just let Uber and Lyft flood the market. So now a medallion was worth $1 million. Now it's worth $20,000. Google it. One guy deleted himself on the state capitol because he lost his job and his way of living. He said he made 6 figures driving limousines for a year. But now Uber and Lyft, they got the black car and all that stuff, the Lux car you can buy cheap. So they destroyed the taxi cab market.
No, they'll destroy a lot of industries. A lot of industries.
So they made it a gig job where you work part-time where people were making a living on that, chime in on that. So that's a huge pet peeve with me, Hillman. They set that whole industry up so the United States tell you they don't give a F about you. They would destroy your livelihood in a heartbeat for $90 million of lobbyists. Chime in on that.
They're not, again, it's happening. It's Amazon, big companies. They know everybody knows what's coming. Automation is coming. It's coming.
It's here. It ain't coming. It's here.
But the question is here. The question is where you gonna stand in it.
Oh, we toast. We toast because you brought it up, and I'm gonna get personal. We talking about red pill, blue pill, black people talking about people, and people are just running away with your data, and we don't care. We don't care. Engineer Cannabis, go ahead.
I'm funny because when I hear all this blue pill, I'm looking at data like, oh, they're just talking about red pill and blue pill. So if you're gonna create a product, you create a product of red pill and blue pill, you're gonna sell. So if I create a product on data, they're not gonna. You'll be all right. But that's the question. If what is running your world is not talked about, there's a question. There's a reason. If what's running your life right now is hidden, and you see, but you see, that's the problem. You see it I see it on a daily basis.
Oh, I do too. I do, yeah.
I see all the patterns on a daily basis. I said, are people actually seeing what I'm seeing? This is clear as day.
So my next thing is I'll probably invite you is I'll cut you up is digital redlining. If you're in a certain area, you can't get a good loan. You can't get a business loan. You can't get a house loan at a certain level.
What's happening?
Digital redlining in the new global economy is digital
What's happening? But the question is happening because right now I have your data. The banks has your data on, again, your income. Has your data, your IRS records, income, has your data on how much you make on a daily basis. Then there are laws that says you can't give people this amount of loan because of they have to have this kind of income and all that. So if I have all this information, can I just create laws that says if you're not making about this amount of money, you can't get a loan for this kind of house? And I know most black people 30,000, 35, 50,000. Yeah, can I create laws with that, and then go to a place and make those houses 500, so you can have loans to access it? No. Isn't that redlining systematically, and you don't even know what's going on?
Yep.
Then I can say, okay, how can I make it look fair? Let me sprinkle a little bit of black people in there, and look up on my database and say, okay, which black people do I think is good to get this kind of loans with this, and I can pick up and see, okay, he has a loan. Then I don't even need to talk. I just market to him, put a lot of marketing, say, hey, you can come to this house, and automatically I'm giving psychological, say, come here, we can give you loans and all that, give you all the incentives, lower payments and all that. to incentivize you to go to that place.
Yeah.
Isn't all your data I just used to just trick you guys to accept that what's going on is acceptable?
Yeah.
And they're
that's it.
using it on a daily basis. And I see it and I look, and this is what we're talking about in terms of when I'm seeing bullshit happening, and I can tell you how the story, you can see the stories everywhere, and this is what's happening, and this is what you're paying attention to. Don't
No,
you see
that's
the
it.
worst part of life is? And the problem is blatantly shown to you, then it's explained to you through data. Like, no, we're not doing anything wrong. You can see the data. But they already manipulated the data just
Right.
for you.
Yeah, they already manipulated. And let me read
Because
JM's
if they know the source of the data, I can manipulate it. If I know
Oh
how
yeah.
the source, if I know the source and all, I can manipulate the outcome of it.
Oh yeah.
So
Let me read this from JM real quick. I was thinking data owners of the organization were keeping their data secure and not using it. No, JM, they try. The problem is, and me and Engineering Cannabis talked about that, is the hackers are using artificial intelligence. So we got to use artificial intelligence, right? It's a race to that game. And most organizations, especially if you're not from a Fortune 500 company or the government, you just can't keep up with the level of attacks people are doing now. It's just to a certain level. You just can't protect data like that.
and truck driving, one of the funniest part of it is truck driving. Everybody shouting, "Oh, they're not gonna." Do you know the amount of money they're lobbying for truck drivers and truck automation? You think do you think truck driving? Do you know how much? And not only that, do you think the incentive that if I can come in and go to a congressman and say, I can predict that in the next 10 years, we're going to automate this, and we're going to have more jobs and more outcome for a positive outcome for you. I'm going to give money in your pocket. Do you think automation is not going to happen faster? And I tell you reasons, like we have pandemic and all that, and we have logistics issues. We need to expedite this whole automation process. Again, logistics issues. How many times have you heard that we have logistics issues? We can't get food faster. So if I say, no, we have, that's what mostly in the news, all I hear is we have logistics issues and we have problem with trucking employees. And we have problem again. If I continue hearing that and continue hearing that same thing, the question is, what's the solution? Automation. I say there's a problem, and we present a solution.
And I argue with people. That's the first thing that's going to get automated because it's much harder to drive an automated car inside the city. When you drive on the highway, you got a couple of drones. They're gonna go from east to the west coast, and they're gonna park it at the top of the freeway, and people are gonna drive it down. That's the first thing gonna get automated. They're already doing it in Texas, practicing.
So because everybody, the funny thing is, everybody keeps saying no. I said, look at what's being look at what's being talking about. We have logistics issue. They keep saying that every news outlet. We have logistics issue. We have logistics issue. We have problems recruiting new truck drivers. We have truck drivers retiring. We don't have enough staff. We don't have enough. That's what's being driven. So if that's a problem, and I as a tech individual comes and I say, hey, I have a problem to use. I have a solution to your problem. I automate it. Right. It's going to be acceptable.
And the crazy thing is, I did a video on the thing that really caught me off guard, and I very rarely get caught off guard, is the insurance companies are worried. The reason why is insurance costs on a person is much higher than a product, right? Because I know what the product's going to do. Engineering Cannabis and people, I used to work for an insurance company. When we do that product for the autonomous, I can tell you how many people are going to get deleted this year. I can tell you how many accidents going to happen. I can come up with a round ballpark where I can't, when people getting high driving, I can't calculate that. A machine, I can come up. That's how you pay for your insurance policy. So insurance companies are so scared. Their premiums are going to drop by 80% when the trucks get automated because you can come to a T and get pretty close to what those are. Google Pinto. Pinto was blowing up in the 80s, and they knew how many people were going to get deleted. Go ahead. I can feel you want to get in on that, engineer.
Because right now,
I feel what you want to get in on that.
Because the insurance company, what's going to happen is, because now you have an autonomous product so now the autonomous product can say, okay, we know if this product goes in, we can predict that maybe 10 or 20 people might get dead or might die or something like that. So we're going to keep this money for them. And because we know where the pathways these trucks are going, and the people they're going to interact with, they're probably not going to be that wealthy. So we're going to estimate what their value is. You see that messed up is? They're estimating their value based on your location, where you drive, people that autonomous truck interacts with. So they're collecting data like, okay, they interact with these kind of people on a daily basis. And these kind of people, they work in this area. They don't make this amount of money. They have all that data. And so they don't have all this kind of money. They make this kind of money. They make probably around 50,000. So if this guy get killed, he ain't got no life insurance. We might give the family maybe 500,000. They're gonna be all right.
Facts.
They're
gonna take it and run. They're gonna take it and run.
That is the estimation of your insurance.
Facts.
That is what they're doing.
So people, I was debating some truck drivers. I'm like, dude, I'm on your side. I'm just giving you the facts, and I gave him the article. Here's the article, man. This was done by a very large consulting company that helps people doing. I work for a Fortune 500 insurance company. They calculate death all the time. That's how they get their premiums. They do that in their sleep, so they can do that. So,
they can predict. They can predict based on this dude, and especially if you got a felony or again, they're gonna situate. What's gonna happen is all this autonomous vehicle, they're gonna situate it in such a place where it's low risk, where if people die, there's gonna be low risk to their company. That's why you see railroads and all that. They're not in a rich neighborhood. They're in small, not because of the lobby, but also the insurance cost. If there's damages in the property, can we just deal out $3 million and repair all the houses there? Yes.
Yeah, easy.
So they already decided where the risk is, the low risk is, and build on that. Build on the automated vehicle where the pathway is. So if an accident happens, we're not looking at a white college student or a white doctor that's going to die based on it. Have you looked at recently who died? Who are the people who died on this autonomous vehicle? Have you seen any doctors dying from accidents on the autonomous vehicles, or any engineers, or people probably low skill and all that? It's messed up, but this is reality.
Thanks,
this is how it's done. This is how big data is used. Well, again, we are putting our heads in the sand. And I hope we're not going to be too late to understand what this is.
We too late.
That's messed up.
But my thing is the last thing, and I'm going to shut it down. I'm tired of this. And you brought this up is I think we need more AI and ML people and have them put those algorithms on the blockchain so we can review them. Nobody's reviewing them. Nobody's checking them. So I think
nobody cares. They're using algorithms to judge your bail. Nobody asked that question. What the hell are you? How are you judging my bail based on an algorithm?
No, yeah, I'm doing a live with my lawyer probably a couple weeks on that.
If I was there, I'm gonna, before you even bail, I said, hey, Judge, yeah, how is this algorithm working where it's determining my bail? What features in it? While I'm asking, I'm on the phone with another lawyer. I'm going to sue these people to get some money.
Well, the problem is it's hard to sue them because, and I agree with you on it, but the problem is without that, people were staying in jail because they couldn't come up with $1,000. So they try to figure out, okay, if we do have the AI and the ML check them, maybe they can release me on my own recognizance because I can't come up with the cash bail.
Again,
there's 100 people in jail that can't come up with $1,000. So they're losing their job, they're losing their wife. So they try to come up with something different. Go ahead.
It's like putting me on and saying that AI is going to make I already know the knowledge. With my kind of knowledge, I say I know most AI have 85% of AI is biases. Yeah. I know this knowledge. It's like me putting me on there and telling the AI to make that decision. The amount of questions I'm going to ask, the lawyer going to be like, cut this AI before he going to cut this. Don't let this guy go before he going to sue us. That's what we need to do because again, AI is going into the law system. They have AI that predicts. They have an AI now that predicts the outcome of a law, of a verdict. And it's based on, and they're doing it based on the judge's patterns. Yeah. Over the time, what did the judge in those kind of cases? What does the judge normally do? Or that's the easy case. If the judge is going to make the decision, now if a jury is going to make a decision, how are they predicting the jury's sentiment on you? Again, that's why that facial recognition comes in. If I use my facial recognition, how many of those juries actually like me? Are they frowning? Are they happy? Are they smiling? That's just one aspect. Then they look at their history, social media history. What kind of social media are they checking about me? Are they checking the good or bad? Are they in the echo chamber? These are the ways you use to detect how a jury can go for you or not. And this is messed up. And I'm just giving you tidbits on what I know. There's a lot of messed up stuff going on, but nobody's asking that question.
And that's it. Like you said, and that's what I'm gonna try to talk about more is what are the buys, what jobs are gonna be located. And two is a lot of times too is I just had a information interview with Azure, right? With AWS. They were asking me behavioral questions, man. I could look at the dude's face. I'm like, yeah, he wasn't feeling that answer.
Yeah, that's the message. See, that's what he's saying.
I feel that answer.
They're not feeling that. When someone says something, the guy who clench his fist or smack his mouth or do something like, man, okay, he ain't feeling. And this is what, again, we're gonna have to train that algorithm just to detect that. If someone clenches a lip or frowns their eyes or open their eye wide, what does that mean?
Right.
If someone's eyebrow crushed, what does that mean?
We just saw some of that, right? When we were looking at AWS recognition, it was using some of that to try to figure out what your sentiment is, right?
Yeah, so they're looking at your eyebrow. Right? Yeah, they're looking at all that and say, okay, does that mean angry, happy, smiling, confused? What does that mean? That alone is bias because we don't. That if anybody uses that for me, I'm going to ask that question. How do you know? How do you know when I'm angry? How many data set points did you get to know that I'm angry? So this is the messed up part that's going on. But hey, we rather talk about women and stuff. And SBE, what the new thing is SBE.
SBE, shame, blame, and explain.
I'm like, are you serious? This is what's going on in the world, and y'all here talking about this? Oh, y'all, we're messed up.
So,
we messed up.
But I think that's too is when you start talking about the elite and who controls what and who sets the agenda for the whole country, right? I think that's the part where we're missing it. Like you said, a big step of that now is how we're using data and how's data being controlled and how data controls your life now, right? So,
but two is messed up.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't realize is when you post stuff, right, that could affect your job, what you eat, right, and what you put on your Facebook. As a company, I can say, "Oh, he's pre-diabetic. I can tell by what he's eating. I don't want to hire him because he's gonna mess up my premiums, right?"
No, he come in. He went for lunch at this time, and he had in Instagram. I see he had a big lunch. He probably gonna be sleeping this afternoon. No. See, just because you showed on Instagram you had a burger and you went back to work an hour later, this dude gonna be sleeping at work right now. Or he drank. They can catch you if you had a beer, just a light beer during lunch, and you came back. They're gonna say, "Hey, we don't want you working right now. You drank. You had a beer. How did you know I had a beer? We went through your social media and we saw you drank." See how messed up that is?
And a lot of times too, like when you sign that stuff when you get on your employment, you're not reading that stuff. A lot of times it gives companies the ability to go through your social media for your role of employment with certain firms.
Yeah, we have access to your social media accounts and any media, so we can know what's going on. So if you say you're sick and we see you on the bar twerking, how you say you got a flu, but he here twerking and it's timestamped at this time and this time. You're twerking at this bar, so they know where your location is. And you telling them you sick in bed, but you here in Bora Bora twerking. Nah, something ain't right. So this is where we're going to.
Yeah. So what's your last words? I'm gonna shut it down, man.
My last word is I'm always gonna tell about what big data is and how powerful it is. It's really powerful. It's a storyteller. It can tell you everything you need to know. And we as a people are taking it for granted. Really taking it for granted. Most on Black YouTube, most stuff I've seen is a joke. Nobody's talking about this. Nobody will tell you about this. No, most people really don't understand it. Professor Black Ops, the people, they're understandable. Again, we only have 1% or 2% of people who actually understand big data.
Oh, you
And
way too high. You way too high. I think we got 0.5. I don't think we
point
got
for five.
2.
We got 0.5 people. And
Yeah,
those
we,
people,
we we ain't got a percent.
none of them, most of them aren't gonna come on YouTube. I came to YouTube because I have my own stuff, but I'm giving you stuff that most people won't tell you because again, there's a lot of data out there on you and everybody that can be used to manipulate and tell you do a lot of stuff. But again, we are not only freely giving it out, we are putting our heads in the sand on how that can be used. Why is it we as a community can't come out and say our data is an entity and we need to protect it? Why do we have to wait for other communities to do that?
No, that's true.
We are not fighting for it until something drastic happens to the other community. Then we reflect and say, oh, there's a correlating effect of what's happening to us to them. But the problem is, it's 50 times worse for us if it's happening
Yeah.
for them.
Facts. And yeah, now I got to chime in on one more thing. Go ahead and finish.
So I'm saying this because at one point it will be glaring and it will be visible. But at that point, it's too late.
It's way too late.
Right now, we're still a lot. We're enjoying a lot of fuckery in this place. A lot.
Facts.
And the problem is, even your fuckery is a data point.
It is.
If I know this amount of people is enjoying fuckery, I can say, okay, I know how to then manipulate you. So your fuckery is a data point, and there's a lot of messed up stuff going on. There's not a lot of people teaching you about how to use your data. Everybody's teaching you about credit card and all that, but the fucked up part is your credit card is a data point.
It is. Yeah, definitely.
People telling you how to get credit cards, all that, but they're not telling you how to utilize your data. That's the mess. Have you seen that messed up part? They're telling you how to get credit cards, how to do all that, but nobody's telling you how to utilize your data as a weapon. That's the messed up part. They're telling you everything but how to use your data. Yeah. That's something you need to know. Everybody's telling you everything about credit card and all that shit. Giving you everything about how you can get quick money and all that. But nobody's telling you how to use your data as a tool.
The crazy part is, and I'm just gonna touch on this a little bit. We're gonna have to do another live straight, is nation states are using your effortry and your fuckery to get for you to vote for certain people, right? I can get you emotionally and try to get you to vote for certain people, certain regulations, for certain things and companies by what I post, right? As a person, right? If I call you the N-word and I put it to this person, even though it's a deep fake, right? We gonna get in deep fakes another thing. You can think it's don't go there, engineer cannabis. We're gonna be here another hour.
I'm just gonna say one thing.
Go ahead. Deep fakes, go ahead.
Deep fakes and all that. It's manipulation. The most powerful tool is not just data, it's data and psychology.
Facts. That's a whole other stream. Go ahead.
If Chick-fil-A can use data and psychology to make their brand the most powerful brand in the world, and Facebook uses that same scenario, do you think YouTube is not using that? Do you know what I call YouTube? I call YouTube the bias algorithm.
Oh, facts.
They hone on your biases and make sure you think your biases are right.
I've looked at
that echo chamber. People talk of it. That's not. It's a bias algorithm.
Facts.
Because they take you and what you watch, and they say, okay, this dude like watching this. We need to keep him on this platform. We need to make sure he's right. We need to feed on his bias. So we're gonna feed on his bias and make sure he's right. And we're gonna feed him. And we're not like someone looks up, Democrats are going to take my guns. We're not going to show you other Democrats that says, hey, we need guns. We're going to show you every time the Democrats going to take your guns. Always.
Fine.
We're going to feed you that bias. We're going to make sure you think you're right every time.
Shout out to CL. I'm going to throw this out. Young homie I work with, kind of right. But two is, and black people, we got to get much. Republicans are all bad. Right now, man. We have an agenda and we need to take it to the people that's going to support us, right? But they're going to put your bias, put you in an echo chamber, right, to force you to vote or move a certain way. Go ahead, engineer. We ain't gonna never get off here, engineering campus. Go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. This is my thought. This is what I do.
Go ahead.
But
Go
this
ahead.
is what it is. YouTube alone is a bias algorithm. We feed your
Facts.
bias. We feed you so we make you stay here so
Facts,
long.
facts.
Because if you believe you're right every time, you want to feed that I'm right every time. You want to feed that emotion. That's psychology. I want to feed that emotion that I'm right. I'm better than everybody because I know more. So I'm going to go continue trying to make sure I get that. And that's the biggest BS you can ever see.
Right now. You're right, Hillman. I'm going to bring up that persuasion. I'm going to bring up WMD, the weapon of math destruction, how they were using AI and ML wrong and some big thing. And it's Indian lady, she's got big theories in the wrong fashion. So those are 3 books that talk about using AI and ML that's hurting society in different ways. So we definitely going to touch on that.
It's hurting, but they're good stuff. It's hurting, but again, I learned all this because I enjoy it and I know it and it's feeding me. So, but again, we don't have black people who understand this, and it's going to get funny soon. Funny,
it's
bad.
Already there. You talking about it's already there, isn't it?
It's getting fun. I'm looking around. I'm like, oh, these people don't know what they're doing. They're playing. They're playing. Do you know how bad it is? The banks already know all this. The banks looking at you like, oh, this dude don't know. I know everything about his life. How it's going to be
digital
next
red line.
20 years.
Digital red line. I'm gonna have to send you an invite. I'm gonna be talking about digital red line.
Banks actually look at you and say, dude, I know your life in the next 20 years. I know what you're going to live. I know you. I'm going to be laughing at you in the next 20 years. I'm like, dude, they're not playing with you guys. But hey, we can keep on with fuckery. The people who understand the data are going to understand, oh, these people didn't play. Yeah,
there I go. I got to touch on one thing. That 2 is people don't realize is the pandemic show people that is, if you're in a school district and your tax basis doesn't support your school, your kids are going to be going online in the metaverse. They will not be going to a real school. And what that's going to hurt with most black people use school as daycare so they can go to work. So
and that's going to mess people money.
They're going to take you out as part of that. And I'm going to talk about that in one. Like you said, me and Engineering Cannabis probably going to hook up and kind of touch on things. But go ahead and touch on that, Engineer. I ain't going to let you. I can feel you feeling that a little bit.
The pandemic exposed a lot of stuff. Exposed a lot of basically exposed the poverty level in terms of certain community. It exposed the access to certain resources in certain communities.
Facts.
If your child is not going to school, who's going to take care of your child? Who's going to be responsible for making sure your child is educated? Is it a computer? My rich friend might have a tutor that actually comes to his house and teach them. I'm going to create a service that says, hey, I'm going to have tutor, like a maid service, but this time a tutor service that comes to your house. And it's only for the rich. If you can't pay 6 figures a month, you don't have that service.
No, it's shout out. What's Tone? He always talks about that. And they did this thing. It was called the Ball, and it was to teach kids how to program at a preschool level. So when you put in these figures, the ball actually like it's eating these virtual pebbles. But what each level, what happens was now instead of using right and left, you start doing degrees. But when they figured it out, they had a programmer from a Ivy League school come in and teach these kindergartners how to program this thing. Yep. So these kids are moving at a high grade level. So will regular people be able to keep up with that, right?
No, that's the data part. No, if you can't hire somebody to come teach your child, no. So this is what's going in. So
yes, let me read this real quick. This has been a really great topic, a little overwhelming thinking about all the implications of big data. Yeah, we want you everybody go subscribe to my man. He growing this. We want to put your toe in and we're going to give you a little more because like Engineering Cannabis says, we got to understand this because this is going to have a huge impact over the next 20 years. If we don't understand it or get in
you say 20, I'm thinking next 5 years.
Facts.
You say
facts.
20. 5
no,
years.
Facts. No, facts.
The next 5 years, data is going to Again, everybody's saying data is the new oil. It's
Nah, that's
already
true.
here. So
Nah, that's
all
true.
that, it's here. It's now. If I right now, they can tell you your school district based on how your child will succeed from
Oh
now
yeah,
to college,
yeah,
based on where your child resides in the school system and
yeah.
all that.
If they're in a bad I'm gonna say if you're in a bad public school system and you historically, because the one guy was in Oregon, everybody in the last 50 years was, I mean, in the bottom 50% of his class were like flunking out. It was
I-
just something.
if I have
Crazy.
historical data that shows, hey, people that stay in this place, this place, this place, and I know now the economy, based on the economy, is getting better and better. It's not getting easier.
No,
I can predict, oh, most likely jail time or shot or something gonna happen if you don't move out of this place. If they can predict your financial history based with Monte Carlo method on
oh,
your,
facts. Shout out to
I
the
can
Monte
predict,
Carlo.
I can predict most likely where you're gonna be in the next 20 years based on all that history,
Yeah,
and that's
facts.
messed up. And people know this, but we ignore it and we keep up with, hey, let's just mess with the fuckery. The passport bros got us. We're gonna fly over with them over with AI.
DR, we go to DR or whatever
Yeah,
we got.
AI gonna catch us in DR. AI gonna
No,
we're gonna
facts,
fly
man.
up there. But
We
no,
saw you when
it's
you
a
got on the
problem.
plane, though. The AI saw when you got on the plane, but that's a
AI
whole other
don't care.
subject.
Nah, so that's the problem. So we keep messing around, but hey, it's here. It's here. It's here, and it's gonna mess people up. But hey, as I go, I'm gonna protect mine. So I'm gonna understand it. If you really want to understand it, there are a lot of ways, but
Are you doing anything on your channel for that? I know you talked about.
I'm already gonna start posting this week. I already started. I had 3 videos. I'm gonna post this week on
Okay.
everything with this topic and
You
some
want to
other
drop your
topic.
channel when you want to drop your channel or?
When I drop it next week, I'll come to and announce it.
Okay,
But
that's cool. Just let me
I'm
know. It's all
yeah
good. Just let me
yeah
know.
I have 2
I
channels.
won't put
One
no
with this.
pressure on you. Ain't no pressure,
No,
man.
I'm gonna
No
do it
pressure.
because again,
Okay.
it's
Okay.
I'm
Okay.
gonna talk all about big data, how to get into it, how to study the whole
Okay.
path of big data. Because nobody's
So,
talking about big data. Everybody's talking about
no.
everything else. But the whole pathway to big data
No,
and
facts, man.
how it's used in every system, from justice to your everyday eating to what you watch on a daily basis, how everything is connected and
Yeah.
how big data has now made it easier to access your whole daily life quickly and easy.
No, maybe too quickly. But yeah, for my channel too, I'm gonna touch on it. He gonna dig super deep, but touch on. I'm kind of big society, so I'll probably do digital redlining, mass surveillance,
Even the
stuff
real
like
estate
that.
market is funny right now. Real estate,
Oh,
everybody's talking about the market crashing. I'm saying if you look at the data, you really look at the data, every real estate market is local. And it depends on how many people are coming in for jobs, debt rate,
facts.
population growth. If you study it well, you can predict how that real estate market is going to grow. But again, nobody's talking about data. Everybody's just making assumptions.
No,
And
it's
I
true.
laugh every time. I'm like, there's a problem. We need to start teaching real people to understand how real data works. How people,
Man,
how banks and everybody are using that data to make massive amount of money. Real estate is based on population growth and population and
facts,
death. How many people coming
facts.
and jobs? There are a lot of factors that do this, but nobody's telling you, hey, this real estate market is based on population growth. How many houses are going to be? The unemployment, the amount of how much money it is, the employment rate, the 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 increase in income each year, the business. All these are
No, facts.
factors that
Mhm.
affect real estate. How many families are being created?
No,
Go
that's
to the
true.
birth rate. If you have more children being born, mean that correlates to people who want houses.
Right. You're gonna grow it.
So
That's it,
these are
machine. I'm
yeah.
cutting you out. We gonna be going all
And
night. I'm cutting you out, man.
wait,
So
all
yeah,
right, well, but that's how data is. So hey, but
facts.
thank you. But my channel coming up, I'm going to discuss more on this,
That's
and
true. Just let me know.
we're
And
going,
you
we're
always
going
over here. So when you
yeah.
ready, you can always drop it in the chat when you ready. No pressure. So
Uh,
that's it. Professor Black Ops Mondays here. I gotta
uh,
get a little food and relax. We're gonna be going for another hour if I let engineering cannabis keep growing. But we're gonna take this information and spread it out Because like I said, I got some big society information coming up. Digital redlining, mass incarceration. His thing he brought up too is I'm gonna bring my attorney on cash bail versus AI bail. Is that positive, negative? Because a lot of people sit in jail because they don't have cash and lose their job, right? But once again, engineering cannabis, 80% of those algorithms has biases. So we need to look at that from both sides of that equation. So this is Professor Black Ops. Everybody have a nice weekend, and let's get it for Monday. Thanks for coming through, Engineering Cannabis. Appreciate it, bro.